I'm doing here, and I'll tell everybody you're being recorded. If anybody's got an objection to it, you should let me know. But I will post the recording on the internet when I get it all processed. Uh, and that's as long as I don't end up crashing everything, because I'm recording so far 3 hours and then 3 more hours. So they may not like me tonight. But anyway, we are being recorded. And what I normally do is I try to go through the camps in some kind of chronological fashion. So, Chuck,
Yes,
are you the first person, the earliest person there?
I am the first person there.
You came from the original team. Okay. So why?
Yeah, it was the original team that set up the camp. That's correct.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the circumstances of that? How you located, how you came about being assigned to that camp?
Well, first of all, let me back up just a little bit, because you contacted me just as I was leaving my home in Georgia. And for the last 2 months, I've been down here in Florida, soaking up the sun, what little there is of it. So some of the dates I haven't had the opportunity to look at. I do not have any dates with me or any records with me here. They're all back up there, to include the original orders that I owe you, Steve. I need to send you the original orders that sent the team over. But we came over, and we flew into the camp. There was an airstrip there, and we landed there, and there was on the ground CDIF force of about 300 troops that were there, all Montagnards in the local village there. We had an airfield that support that. I guess really the camp was located on an approach from the west into. I'm just trying to remember the name of the headquarters on the East Coast. What's that again?
July or Da Nang?
And Quang Nai was over there.
Either one of those. Quang Nai.
Quang Nai City, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a radio relay station there later in the later years.
Well, I just heard one of you guys talking about a new camp. I didn't know that they moved the camp. Somebody here had a message this morning that he went and set up a new camp north of where the original camp was set up.
I think they had a training center, if that may be what you're talking about.
Well, if there was a training center there, it was not while I was there.
It didn't come until 69.
Right.
So, why were those other troops there? When you
they were there we were all there to protect the airfield. And
who were the other people? Rough Puffs?
That's RFPF that was there. There was a Vietnamese Special Forces detachment there. There were no other Americans when we went in there. So, I don't know when and where they left, but I had no contact with the previous team that was at some other location. I don't even know where that other location. I don't recall now what the other location was. If they moved them to Bateau.
I don't think anybody moved to another location. I think you came out and opened up a new.
We opened, yeah, but the RFPF came from someplace.
There was a team before you from the first group, and that you came over and became the new Bateau camp.
Yeah.
where they were. I don't know, right?
I had no knowledge of the group that was there, the
Tom?
team that was there from the first group. Never saw him, never met him, never had any discussion with him.
Goodness. No contact with him. That's strange.
No contact at all with him. Now, when I got there, we were all living on the ground, on top of the ground. There were no trench lines, which we went about digging right away. Everybody was living right on top of the ground.
I don't know what happened to Tom Rowe over here. I think that was who he was. Maybe he'll show
Tom
up
who?
again. Tom Rowe, R-O-E. Who was there down there?
Oh, not Tom Rowe.
Rowe, R-O-E.
Tom Rowe was a medic. Tom Rowe was a medic in like 68, right through most of 68.
But was that Tom who was on the screen here a minute ago and now
Oh, that-
disappeared?
That was Ralph Cooper, but Tom Rowe was a medic there in 68. I also saw,
But
I saw
there was
Jim
a
Crockett.
Tom on the screen. There was a Tom on the screen just a few minutes ago.
There was a Jim
And now
Crockett.
he's disappeared. Yeah, he was here a minute ago too. Where are they disappearing to? I don't know.
Wait. Hey, hi, Ralph and Dan Burks. It's been a long time.
You would
But,
see my, still have blisters from you, you son of a gun.
I just wanted to clarify the first camp was east of the river. And I don't know when it was moved to the west of the river, right at the bridge that was blown up and the camp was right on the French-built highway 515 that was on our map, but now it's Highway 24. Okay, but I actually went up and blew up parts of the old camp, the blockhouses. And there was still an airstrip there, but I think the airstrip wasn't suitable. I mean, they had some crashes there that I've read about, the Australian caribous.
It's correct.
And when I was there in '69, the Seabees came out and lengthened our airstrip to handle C-123s.
Well, yeah, your comments about the airstrip are correct. When I was there, we had 130s. We had other aircraft come in there and sheared their landing gears off as they attempted to land, because the airstrip was elevated and very short. So they had a very short, not only a short airstrip, but they also have a very short approach to it because of the mountains and primarily because of the mountains. But there was also a town to the east in which they could not come in low. They had to drop down very quickly to land on the airfield. But I've got pictures of aircraft that wrecked, but fortunately did not wreck a great disaster, and people were not killed. Just the aircraft was stripped their landing gears off as they landed there, or their wings were damaged.
Hey, Chuck,
Yes.
was the camp east or west of the river?
Well, that's what I'm trying to envision.
Were you in
Because
the village?
I'm thinking of it as being that the river ran east and west.
No,
No, it ran north
No.
and south.
the main river, north and south, is right.
But so were you on the village side or you were on the other side?
The village was between us and the river.
Okay, because for us to get to the village, we had to take a sampan across the river.
No,
Yeah, we did too.
So Alan,
Yeah,
no,
we waded down to we waded down to the village, Pato.
no, we were there, it was a short drive in a Jeep about just a couple hundred yards to the village.
Okay.
Yeah,
When we
Alan,
set out on patrol, the first thing we did is walk through a river.
okay,
All
Alan,
right,
No.
here you go. Okay, here's the camp.
uh,
Yeah, you'll see it.
So the camp is right here.
That's right. That's the old camp. That's the first
that's
camp.
that would be the old
Yeah.
camp, yeah.
That's where the
Okay, but-
village of Bateau is when I was
That's
there.
right. That's
And
right.
Where is the what?
so
what-
the new camp, about one click to the west of that.
That's right.
so-
That's where the new camp was.
Other
Yeah.
side of the
Yeah.
river here?
Yeah.
Actually, it was in the valley, it was in the crux between the two rivers. We had
That's
one
right.
right,
Right here?
Yeah, right there.
actually south of that.
Yeah,
Right
right
Where
there.
we
There you
were
go.
initially,
Yeah.
where we were initially was not a defensible position.
That's
We were
right.
we were south of the airport, the airfield. And
Our airfield from the junction of these two rivers was off to the west, and it ran east and west.
Here's an airfield
right
right here.
there, yeah. That's the
That was-
airfield that was there when I was there.
Another airfield around?
Here's the second
That's all
airfield right
Bateau.
over here.
Where?
Where's the second? Oh,
It was over there, correct,
Right here.
where the arrow is now, yes. And it ran east and west.
That's right.
So was
You don't-
this whole area a town or was that area a camp?
Cleared.
Cleared.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to say, I'll add two things. I was there in 1969. For TED 1969, the team parachuted on the old strip. The old site right now is a huge memorial monument, martyrs, VC, NDA, communist martyrs cemetery right now.
Huh.
And a museum, I think, to the Vietnam War.
You've been out there, Alan?
No, I haven't, but I was hoping Peacock would be on station here. And
Dan
He's
made
He
a
was
correct.
supposed to be. I
Dan, made-
talked to Peacock the other day and he's supposed to be up here.
he was there in 2011.
Oh, let's see.
Yeah.
Really?
Is it, can anyone go over and go out to the camp where it is or where it used to be?
Well, he would know that. I actually was interested maybe 20 years ago, but Bateau in 2001 had a skin disease, terminal skin disease outbreak. And it was the whole area was quarantined to travel for a couple of years.
I didn't realize that.
Well, and I had a question about, they first blamed Agent Orange, but I don't remember Agent Orange being used in our area at all.
no, absolutely not.
We may have used it some to defoliate the inside the wire, but it was
Yes.
never broadcast. It was always done with hand sprayers.
Right.
Now, when I was over there during 69 and most of 70, we used it, but it was up in the, we called it the Suloy Valley and the Nucloy Valley, but north of the camp. But I don't
Yes.
recall it ever having been sprayed anywhere near where the camp was.
No,
That's right. You know, my dad sold agricultural chemicals, and I can, I know the smell of 2,4-D and all the other components of Agent Orange. And I can't ever remember smelling that sweet, sick smell.
no. There was basically no need, at least when I was there, there was no need to use Agent Orange in that area. The area around the river, around the camp was cleared and it was all rice paddies.
That's right.
There was a village to the east, which was VC control, and we attacked it. And even going from our place to there was no need for Agent Orange to clear to clear the foliage out of that area.
You know, one of the things that highlighted Bateau was our lawn around the inner special forces area. I mean, it was like a country club. And it was a lot nicer than the other A sites in I-Corps.
Oh, it
Wouldn't
was a
have it any
beautiful
other
area,
way.
I can tell you that.
It was.
I remember when I was standing watch, and I always wanted to have the watch before the sun came up. So, but then I'd be there watching this, and you would see these peaks standing up through the mist in the
Yes.
morning. It was right out of a Disney movie. It was absolutely gorgeous.
I remember that sometimes, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Beardsley, you there?
I am.
Yeah,
You
Can you
remember
hear
me
me?
at all?
Is that
I was-
Graves speaking?
I was a young medic, yeah,
Ivan
Yes,
Davis.
yes, you were. You and
Still they're here.
in Peacock,
Peacock was the senior medic.
I don't
yes.
know.
Well, good to see you.
How have you been?
Been fine,
Great.
been fine.
All right, is this newcomer Thomas Rowe?
You'd continue.
Hello. Are you, who are you here?
I hope it's Tom Rowe.
O-T-H.
Al Johnson.
R-O-E-T-H. Who
There
are
it
you?
is.
Hello?
Hello.
Anybody recognize this guy?
Well,
I
get
thought I
sound.
saw the word Mark Lloyd at the bottom of the
No,
screen.
that's over here. That's Mark
Oh.
Lloyd's name on it.
I'm trying.
But the other guy just came on and spoke. He's got R-O-E-T-H as a name. Is that Thomas Rowe?
He doesn't maybe have his audio on.
It looks like he does.
I know.
I see Ivan Davis says he's on mute right now. It's the only one I see up here that doesn't have sound.
They just say hello.
I think.
Hello, fellas.
Yeah, there you go.
Hello.
Hello.
What's
It's
your
Tom
name?
Rowe.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
I don't think I remember any of you. I was a medic there in '68.
I remember you.
Okay.
Okay, we got you here.
You were an engineer, weren't you, Alan?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and I can't think of the other one. Companion or something like that?
Campanella?
No,
Campanella?
Kagawa was there.
Well, the medic,
Kagawa was
yeah.
there. And
Who?
I see that he's deceased. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he sure is.
Medic was Campania.
Camp-
Campanella.
No, Carmona. Rich Car-
was
Ramona was a medic.
Yeah, Carmona was a medic. He was there when I was there. He's probably our most famous resident of A-106.
That's right.
He's traveling today, otherwise, he sends his regards.
What's he famous for?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Being
You know-
still alive.
he came to Richmond while he was Surgeon General, and I had written him a letter. He says, Jim, I'm coming down to Richmond to speak at the Medical College of Virginia. How about we go have lunch together? Well, I hadn't seen or heard from him at that point I put him on the chopper pad and he was rotating back, but he had, solid black hair. And so when I met him at Medical College of Virginia, I didn't see him before he spoke. I just came in the back of the audience and I look up there and I see this bald-headed guy. I said, my goodness, is that Carmona? And afterwards I went up and then we went to lunch. So it was really nice to see him. And I tell you, he was one fantastic medic too.
I want to know who was the medic that fixed up Dr. Moo and Max, because both of them had quite extensive surgeries, and it was done by the Special Forces medics.
I don't know if that was him or not.
Ralph, that might have been Kagawa, Victor Kagawa.
Now, it was before that because Max was already healed up when I got there. It might have been Rube.
Well, okay.
Rube might have done it.
But Mr. Moon had a big hair lip, and Max had been burned substantially from basically his neckline all the way to his heels. He had been burning the outhouses, and it blew up on him. He used gas instead of kerosene.
Yeah.
And someone had skin grafted his whole backside.
Jesus.
Wow.
I do want to add a story to Carmona, though. He was really gifted, and he didn't finish I don't think he finished high school, but he came out to Portland.
He got his GED when he was down at Fort Sam while he was going through the medic course.
But when I saw him appointed to Surgeon General, I wrote him a letter and sent a picture of the Bateau team, and he came out to speak to Portland, Oregon on obesity and things like that. But he introduced me to this crowd of 300 or 400 people. And I just can't, all the medics, Tom Rowe, everybody. I mean, I just was amazed at the quality of medics that we had present, every one of them.
I completely agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
They had to invent the whole field of PAs just to accommodate the SF medics.
Yeah.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah.
And, going from an SF medic, especially without a high school degree, to Surgeon General of the United States, that's quite an advancement.
That's right.
What happened with Carmona is while he was at Fort Sam, I think he was #1 in his class. They told him that they said, Rich, you don't have a high school degree. You've got to have a high school degree before we can graduate you. So he had to go to night school, get his GED while going through Fort Sam so that he could graduate and get out of down there. And he did an amazing job.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a surprise that when I saw him and read in the paper that he'd been named Surgeon General, and I too wrote him a letter. And then he called me, and it surprised me that he even took time to call. And I said, Rich, why would you call me? And he says, well, we were on the same team, weren't we? I said, yeah, but you've gone from E5 to 3-star general. And I said, I really appreciate the call. So it was a pretty amazing conversation.
Yeah.
No,
I had a medic, name was Mudhank. He was probably, and he's Scandinavian, very light, very blonde, very tall. And I remember him walking across rice paddies on a patrol, fundamentally walking on his knees so that he would not stand out above all the Vietnamese that were on the patrol with him.
That's good.
His belt line was above the head of many of the guys that were on patrol. And I looked at him across the field. I just laughed at myself. But he was really straining.
That'd have made a good picture.
Yeah.
He was one of the few people I was not able to find. There's a surprising number of people named William Mudhank in this country. Mudhank in this country.
Oh, is that right? I never heard of it. It's the only time I've ever become aware of it.
But he certainly was there.
Yeah. He had left, he'd been in medical school. He was going to be a doctor. He finished his first year in medical school and somehow, some way got into an argument with his dad. He ran away from home, if you will, and joined the Army. He was a great guy. He was a great medic. Obviously, he had skills far beyond what we needed him to have.
Was there any indication of what part of the country he came from or would have gone to?
He was Midwest. I'm thinking Wisconsin area.
What about age? Does he, in relation to somebody who knew him, was he older, younger? How much
Oh,
older?
he was young. Yeah, he was, he had to be, like I just said, he was finished, first year in medical school, so he graduated from college. So he was 24, 25.
Compared to your age at that time, how old would he be now?
I'm trying to think here. I was 23, 24. No, I was 25. So that's 60 years ago.
You're younger than he was
No. I was older than he was.
by a year.
Say again?
By a year.
Maybe. Yeah.
All right. So how old would that make him today?
80. Well, I'm 85, so he's 83, 82.
Okay, I'll look for an 83-year-old money.
Yeah.
Right.
I think somebody just went off.
Mark Lloyd?
Mark is still here, but he hasn't stayed in. Cassius, tell us a little about the training center. You're the only representative we got here right now.
Well, I'm certainly interested in all the stories you guys are telling. It's nice listening to you. I don't recall any of you. I got there September of '69, and I've heard stories about the training center after the first of the year, but I left there in February of '70. So I was only there a couple of months. And so, of course, I'm interested in listening to you guys talk about, things that happened certainly before '69, et cetera. But I'm sitting here with bated breath, hoping to see another face that a member of the team that was at the training center.
Yeah.
It looks like that's going to happen. So I said that to say about my 3, 4, 5 months there, because there's not a whole much to tell. The little people would come in, and we had maybe there's some of you that that were not there when the training center was formed. I don't know when it was formed. Like I said, I got there in September of '69, and they would send troops in once. I think the cycle lasted a couple of months for the trainees, and so that kind of gives you an idea of how short my
I didn't even know. I didn't even know that they moved the camp and had a training center down there.
Well, they sent a KV team in November of '69 to build the training center, and the team left in March of '70. Those are 31st engineers from group headquarters.
Well, I beg to differ with you. I got there in September of '69.
All right, but that you already had established the training center under Richard Thomas.
Yeah, right, Captain Thomas, right.
But physically building the facilities, you went on training.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, we were it was still in process of being built. And I don't know how long it lasted, because for whatever reason, I don't remember them giving us a reason for us transferring out of there. I presume they were closing it. I left there and went up to the C team in '9.
Well, they just closed the whole camp and turned it over to Border Rangers.
Alan, when you left in January of '69, had you heard talk about the training camp?
Well, no, wait, I came in about January '69, and I left October 25th, '69. I had a run-in with one of the CIDT companies, 127, and I went up to Trebon. But to answer Cash's questions, Thomas,
Richard
was our team sergeant at Bateau for about 8 months.
Right.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, he was E7 before he got his commission, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And he passed away a couple of months. I saw him in the drop, and he was still going to the gym right after right up to his death. But he was always in great shape. And we had some other senior NCOs, Alfred Petty, Dean Sheets.
Two great guys.
And McIntyre,
Yes.
our weapons sergeant. Excellent, excellent people.
Mac
Well,
got some kind of skin thing, and he had to be medevaced. He got it. It was kind of like what you were talking about, but it was a skin disease. Like he get these giant welts all over him.
So did Vic Kagawa. He had a skin
Really?
problem there too.
And the doctors told Mac that the only thing that would be good for him is he have to get out of the camp.
Yeah.
And so he medevaced back, but we lost touch with him after that.
I saw him back in Bragg, and I got out in 1970, October of 70, and McIntyre was there, but he told me he'd been hit by a Benji stick in the leg. He didn't mention about anything about a skin disease, but he was okay then. That was at Bragg in October of 70.
What about Petty? He was my team sergeant, and he was Alfred Petty.
Yes.
For me.
Do you remember him?
Oh yes. Yeah.
Well,
Excellent.
He's one of the best. He was cutting the top out of 55-gallon drum.
With C4 or with deck cord?
No, with an axe.
Oh.
With a fireman's axe.
Yeah.
And one of the guys was driving it, and maybe he was driving it. I can't remember, but a sliver of the axe came off and went in his stomach, and he developed, Carmona said, peritonitis.
Okay.
And he didn't want to be medevaced. He says, well, it just hit me and it glanced off. But we didn't see, you saw the wound coming in, but you never saw any exit. So that went on that night. And then the following morning, he was in terrible shape, and his entire stomach lining had been inflamed. They had to medevac him out, do an immediate operation, and then they medevaced him to Japan. That's the last we saw of him. But what a guy.
Yeah.
But with McIntyre, we were on patrol just a few kilometers west of camp, and one night we were I walked up the hill to make radio contact back to the camp, and he walked into a punji state. I was just there moments before him, and I don't know why he was up in this grassy plateau, but we got him out that night. I actually was hoping to hold him and call in the medevac during the day, but we got him out at night, and he was medevaced out to Chulai and just was down for about a month and came back to Bateau, but he was a very good weapons person.
Oh, he was tremendous. Absolutely.
Before
tremendous.
I drop out of here, were any of you boys around in late 66 to early 67?
Not over there.
But you know what? One of the stories I want to hear about is that Marine Recon did a patrol up at Nui Calmoon and was hit by Main Force VC, and 3 of them were lost. Either missing in action or KIA. And later we went on a patrol west of camp looking for a POW camp, and 2 or 3 of them might have been reported there. There was a POW camp west or east of Bateau, and we never did find it.
When was this?
69. They had
I remember looking for a POW cape in 68 and 69 there.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Cooper and I went on an operation.
Yes.
We never found anything.
I actually want to know before we, what happened to Captain Jones on Christmas? I don't have any idea. I mean, what happened and what happened to him?
Carmona was telling, I was talking to Carmona. Carmona called me last night or night before last. And he talked for an hour. I listened for an hour, and he was bringing me up to speed on what happened after we left there in February. And he told me about, and one of you guys were probably there. He told me about the captain went up with at the top over top of the bunker.
The 50.
Up to the 50.
And laid into it. Yeah,
He did.
yeah.
Well,
he
Alan,
lost.
from what the Colonel Stallings told me, I was back at the B team in Chula, and he says, pack up your box, because if what I've heard is true, I've got to bring Jones back in here. He says I said, well, what happened to him, sir? He said he got all hooched up and he went up on the 50 and he started firing over the village. And the village chief is very upset. Is that right?
Holy Christ.
Yeah, that's what Carmona was telling me. Yeah.
That's what Colonel Stallings, when he came back, he said, get on the chopper. He never said another word about it. And the team really never said anything when I got out there. So I didn't know.
I was
what
there.
I heard.
I was there that night. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Mark.
Okay. Hi, Alan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was there that night, and the problem was, and it all happened. He went up on the 50 and started lighting up the area. The problem was the company doctor from the C team happened to be there at the camp, and he's the one that dropped a dime on Jones.
Oh,
And boy, the next chopper that came in picked him up, and we never saw him again.
Mm.
Jesus.
yeah.
And I have another question. Was Mr. Bob a VC informant? Okay,
Yes.
I mean, I just have
Mr.
no
Bob?
idea.
Yes.
When
Mr. Bob, the interpreter.
Yes.
Right.
I talked to Captain Martin a couple times on the phone and Lieutenant Thieves, and they said he turned out to be a VC informant. That they thought they were holding his family or something and forcing him to cooperate with them.
I mentioned earlier to Sherman that the Sergeant Davis was the intel sergeant, and he got medevac because of TB. But he had the woodcutters out, and when he left, he didn't come back to camp. And what happened was the next time we sent the people back in for polygraph tests, this Mr. Bob failed for about the third time. And they called back and said, why haven't you done anything with this guy? And we said, well, we don't know about this guy. Because Sergeant Davis had this all in his pocket, and he was watching him to see who he was associated with. But as it turned out, you're right, that he was it was more to do with his wife than it was to him, except that he was a part of what was going on. Yes, he was a VC.
And there was another interpreter with him.
Jerry?
Jerry. Well, no, wait, Jerry was killed.
He was, and then it was
Yeah,
you.
and actually, for me, he was a handsome young guy that I really felt bad about the whole thing. But there was Winston and Salem.
Remember Winston?
Yeah, just a minute. I'm thinking here.
It was Hugh, Winston, Mr. Bob, and Hugh had the guitar. He was always playing the gambling song, Rising Sun.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Wait, there was an interpreter with Bob, Mountain Yard interpreter, Jim, I think, if I remember right. And But with Bob, if he was on patrol, it just seemed like, what we were doing, people already knew, and the area was kind of cleared. So I just wondered to confirm that.
Well, he did not pass the polygraph, I can tell you that.
There were a couple of names of people. There were a couple of names of people that I was hoping they would join us this afternoon, because honestly, I have not talked to a single person since I left the A detachment. Anybody on the team, I've not seen a single one. Haven't served with anybody since that time, and I have no idea what's happened to him. Steve Carey was my Steve Carey. Excuse me. Steve Carey was my XO, and he went to go to a SOG.
Oh, SOG. Yeah. Okay.
Eric, here's a picture of a medic with peacock that they're calling David Graves.
Oh, that would be me.
That's Garrett Graves.
Yeah.
It says David.
Yeah, I have it here too.
Well, maybe there was a David Graves. What's the,
I can hold it up to camera.
what's the date?
I think it's 67.
67, yeah.
That's when I was there.
Let me see. Oh, here it is.
Yes, yeah. I think that photo ended up in the newspaper.
Yeah. Well, this is from the Green Beret magazine.
I see. Yeah, I think that's where it got. Yeah.
So that was just a misspelling. I better get rid of David Graves from my database, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah, I think so.
When I saw your last name on the screen, I figured that you were the guy in the picture with Peacock.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you remember a weapons sergeant by the name of Carpenter?
Clifford Carpenter.
Yes. I wonder what
He was-
happened to him.
I think
Well, he died, but not there, I don't think. No.
But he's deceased.
Yes.
Too bad. I liked him.
Doug mentioned him to me.
Yeah.
He's from North Carolina, I think. Is that correct? Or the South? Clifford Carpenter?
He would be from the South, yes.
Yeah, there's a picture of him here too, actually.
Oh.
Let me see.
He was a weapons guy, and then he, for a while, he stood in as kind of the acting team sergeant.
Yeah.
He died in Fayetteville in 2015.
Oh, really?
Is this
Yeah.
is what the caption says right there? That's him right there. That's what.
I see. Yeah.
I remember seeing it in the drop.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah. That's too bad.
There are a couple of articles here mentioning the 105. We had a fairly lengthy discussion about artillery at this morning with
Oh, yes. When
we were about the only camp that had one, so far as I know or saw.
I didn't realize that, but I think so. I think that's true.
Yeah. And I was hoping that somebody today would be able to tell us how it got there. And
I know
maybe
the
There when I got there.
maybe we
I
start
know
with
the
Captain.
first time that 105 got to that camp, we had an operation to the east, and they had a caribou come in, landed, and about 15 or 20 Vietnamese soldiers came off the back of that caribou, had a long piece of bamboo going through the tube, and all these 15 guys were carrying this tube out, laying it on the airfield, went back in and got the rest of the 105, and they assembled it on the airstrip, and they participated in the raid that was next door. I'm an artillery officer, so
Oh,
before I went out to that operation, I was standing behind the 105, and the first round that went out of there, I grabbed the canister, and I've got the canister sitting in my hallway right now as the first shot fired in anger.
Now, tell me, did the Caribou leave empty? I.e.,
The
did
caribou
the,
left empty.
so therefore it stayed.
Well,
yeah.
it stayed for a couple of days until
Oh,
the
you-
operation was through. Then they came back and they reloaded and took it out.
Ah, well, at some point, somebody brought one and the plane left and it stayed.
Yep.
Not while I was there.
We definitely had one because Mr. Moo was in charge of it. And when you called it a fire mission, you had to almost have him set a white phosphorus up to see where he was going to land.
The name painted on the barrel, I think, was Loudmouth, wasn't it?
That's what it says in the article here.
Yeah.
Oh,
It does.
A 105 gun nicknamed Loudmouth was one of the few in the A camps that was turned over and operated exclusively by the camp. CIDG crew has been trained to operate and maintain the gun and is very proud of Loudmouth.
yes.
Well, they didn't, I never saw the Vietnamese operate the 105 during the time I was there.
Yeah,
It was
they were-
all-
I think
It
his
was-
name was Mr. Mu. I'm not sure, but he was Vietnamese.
Yeah. Well,
that was,
We
And he
added
was
a second two in
really good, too.
1969. We had a second 105 there in 1969.
ah,
Yeah.
well, I'm talking summer, fall of 67. We only had the one.
Right.
And the day I got into camp, I was interested in it because I said, holy Christ, they've got a 105 here. Now, I had gone to artillery AIT,
Oh,
and I think that was because the my basic training commander was an artillery officer, and I had indicated interest in OCS. And I think somewhere along the line, he put down that he thought that I should maybe go to Fort Sill, and I did. I went down there for
Artillery.
AIT, yeah. But I wanted to be an infantry officer, and I had put that on my application. And for some reason, I got to Fort Sill. Anyway, I was trained down there as a 105 gunner. And so anyway, long story short, I get to the camp. Damn, we've got a howitzer. This is excellent. Only problem was it was non-functional. And I asked Carpenter, I think at that time, was acting as the team sergeant. And I said, what do you mean it's not working? He says, well, he said, we had an operation and they got out a little far. And he says, we loaded her up with charge 8 and it hasn't worked since. And I said, there is no charge 8.
Charge 8, right.
I said, they go to 7. And he said, well, we just threw an extra bag in. I says, holy Christ, you're lucky it didn't blow you up.
That's
Anyway,
right. Mhm.
it took several days, but we worked and got that what it did was apparently it expanded the casing to the point where it wouldn't come out. It wouldn't eject. So we got it out. We made a mixture of, as I recall, a mixture of some motor oil and some kerosene or something.
Yeah.
And we would have called it WD-40, but we didn't know enough to. And we poured it down the barrel and drove the son of it out. And after which we tested some rounds with a long rope to make sure that it didn't blow up on us. And hey, it worked from thereafter.
Yeah. I remember it working.
I've always wondered how in the hell it got there. So, we're close to hearing apparently sometime during Captain Mabel's.
But you know what was more dangerous was the 4 deuce, I thought. Because I saw that come in very close to the wire.
Oh, so you mean somebody dropped one that close?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, the same crew that ran the 105 had the 4 deuce because they were sitting side by side. So it was
Yeah.
the same crew.
Yeah. Well, that was a good thing to have. You know, you always felt
Oh,
good
yeah.
when you were out, you know, around 10 clicks or so. I forget that about 10 and a half or so is,
Yeah.
I think, the
Yeah.
range on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've never forgotten about charge 8.
I think I've got a photo of Mr. Moo in his 105 somewhere. I'll see if I can't find it.
Here's a story in Green Bay magazine where they title it "The Good A-Team."
Yeah.
And the picture here,
What's the story entitled?
a good A-Team.
Ah,
And
There's no such thing as a bad 18.
well,
That's right.
Right.
the picture has Ralph Cooper's back. But there's a list of people at that moment at Bateau, which includes Lieutenant Ralph Cooper and Spec 4 Alan Johnson.
Well, we were in good company.
Yeah. There is one truth to that, though, that we had a lot of people outside the wire all the time, I think. I mean, you know, just going to Turbong, we really worked the area. And okay, I'm talking about we can talk about Lieutenant Shee. I thought a really good LLEDB. Yeah.
That's what it says here. Lieutenant Tran Van C.
Yeah.
He's English, and he and John Jones
Yeah.
worked very well together, according to the article.
Alan, I had a quick question.
Yes.
You often had visitors trying to come and visit you. And
Yeah.
every time it happened, you always packed up and left before they got there.
Yeah.
You want to expound on that just a little bit?
I think you know.
Well, I don't know if the rest of the team knows.
Oh.
Show and tell.
My dad was appointed VA chief, and there was people coming over to Vietnam to, I don't know, visit me, and you know, I just wasn't interested in any publicity or anything like that.
Well, it is interesting because every time we got a phone call that someone was coming in, I think Alan had 2 or 3 mountain yards he always traveled with, and they were out of.
Yeah. But actually, one of my dad's best friends was Fred App, who was the commanding officer at command control at Khartoum, and he actually came out one Sunday unannounced and landed and just walked around camp and probably told my dad I was doing okay. But no, sorry to put you guys, you know, through that.
No, I thought you handled it quite well.
Yeah. You know, I think the other visitors that we had, I mean, I remember Maggie.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maggie's drawers.
Well,
Martha Ray.
Martha
Ray.
Martha Ray, yeah.
Came out in '69. And we had a Methodist missionary that came down that spoke really good Montagnard and was really interesting to be around. Oh, you know, in Bateau, there was a Catholic church and a Methodist church and or a Protestant church and a Buddhist temple. And I just wonder if you guys remember that.
I do.
I do.
Do you remember Captain Maroney that took over the training camp for a while after the first guy? He was Catholic, and he came up and got me one time when we went over to the Catholic church, and it was really interesting to go over and do that too. Did you go over, Alan?
Yes, I did. It was closed at that time. Hey, Shay.
I went to a Christmas play that was put on by the Methodist preacher and his group.
We
One
had
time
a
at Christmas,
time.
myself and Captain Martin.
That's right.
They had a chaplain come in one time who did a service in Latin, and believe it or not, a tremendous number of the Vietnamese spoke Latin, and they had quite a mass in Latin, and that was quite interesting.
I'll bet.
We had this Vietnamese priest came up there, and I'm Catholic, he's Catholic. He was going to have mass, but before mass, he was going to hear confessions. And I didn't speak any Vietnamese at all at that time, and he didn't speak any English, but we managed to talk to each other in French. And for our pig French, basically he said, write it down and then hand it to me. So I'm in there, and it comes time for me to go to confession, and he opens the door and I hand him a note. Well, there are people all around just wondering, what is this guy handling this priest a note for? And so then I went in and I did my confession, and he said, you're forgiven.
But a lot of the mountain yards were Protestant, and
Yeah.
that's still happening today at this at this time. And regardless of what the local government wants to do. But Peacock told me that you when he was there in 2011, you couldn't go out and speak, or you couldn't talk to the mountain yards. You were guarded.
The missionaries that came over there,
Yes.
were doing
Yep.
pushing Bible studies, and they were doing language studies alongside it. That really was a very effective process, and with the Montagnards, it stuck with them. And when they left, they were strongly dedicated to what they learned. And I have materials that were done by the missionaries with different language materials for every one of the tribal groups in Vietnam. Just an amazing resource that they created. Dictionaries, primers, Bible translations, but it was all part of proselytizing their faith, and they were very effective in doing that through the program they set up. They were special forces of their own.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me that the Protestant missionary I met, they had a very active program in the 65, 66. And I think when things got a little hotter around Bateau, they had pulled out and just would come in from Da Nang once in a while. But he spoke fluent Montagnard, the Ray Montagnard dialect. And he came in on a chopper, and I said, well, you're not going to go out there alone. I'm going to come with you, because I was interested too on how he just would talk to the local people there.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was very interesting.
I don't remember the Protestant church there when I was there. I do know but the Catholic one is mentioned, and of course the Buddhist temple every morning at sunrise.
Yeah.
The bells were ringing, and they were chanting their thing. Yeah.
Look, Dan, would you like to give your trip report?
If you guys are interested, I'll run you through some pictures I took in 2005.
Oh, hey, yeah.
Okay, let's see if we get this working here. Can you see this screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go back to picture number 1 over here, and I got to get a little control over it. Okay, Dan, tell me when to switch slides.
Okay. I'll give you guys some context. I had wanted to get back to the country, but wasn't able to figure out exactly how they were handling access until I was working in Chicago, I guess, and I had a couple of press crews that were Vietnamese, and they took off for a month. And I found out that they had been able to get visas to go back and visit their families, which was a cultural issue, I guess. It's a big deal. And as a consequence, I immediately chased down the travel agency that had provided them and scheduled the trip. And as it turned out, I took my son along. This was August of 2005, and we spent about 10 days over there. And the primary objective was to try to get back into the Central Highlands, find the camp, and find out if there was anybody in Bateau that remembered any of us, et cetera, et cetera. So this is 15, 16 pictures taken out of the middle of the experience. There were only 4 or 5 cities in South Vietnam that could handle tourists at the time. One of them was Hoi An, which was close to Da Nang,
Yep.
right next to Da Nang, and that's where we ended up spending some time. I didn't see any of the Americans the whole time I was there. I saw Australians, I saw Scandinavians, a lot of Japanese, but there were no American flags or American residue of any kind. On the other hand, the South Vietnamese that discovered we were Americans were very friendly. In any event, we rented a car, went down to Quang Ngai, and this is about 6 a.m. We're on motorbikes and we're traveling south on Route 1. The plan that day was to go down to Moduc, jump onto 515, later known as, what is it, Alan, 24?
Yeah.
And then get to Bateau. And if we got that far, it was successful. If we got farther, it would be even better. In any event, this is southbound, 6 a.m., about a mile or two out of Quang Ngai, headed south on Route 1. Next picture. We hit Moduc, turned west on 24. That's pretty much what you saw all the way to Bateau. They had put down a pretty good asphalt cover. They graded the road. You can see their road markers. Apparently, they use those wherever there was the danger of you getting off the road and getting in trouble. You can see there's little to no berm on the road at all. There were bridges. And very interestingly, the big deficiency when we were there was the absence of power. And you can see they got 3-phase transmission there running along the left side of the road. Next slide. This was, I never did figure out what this was. It looked like a predecessor to a way station to me. It could have been a checkpoint, but it was non-functional. There was nobody in it. It appeared about half the way to Bateau on 24. We kind of walked around, tried to figure out what it was. We never did. Next video or next picture. This was typical of what we would run into, even up in Da Nang. They had farming activities integrated with the city folks. In fact, they were raising hogs right next to the hotel that we were in. And here's someone pushing his animals down the road. Or actually, they're coming towards us, but this was not uncommon at all. Next slide. Here we are entering Bateau. Alan, you'll recognize Nui Kham Moon there.
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing in the entire city that I recognized. All the small mud stubbed huts were gone. The entire traffic pattern had changed. But you can see that there's been a lot of infrastructure brought in. That's a 4-lane road. You've got lighting running down the center of it. I don't know whether the lights worked. We came late morning and left, shortly thereafter. And I don't know where that power is coming from. I didn't see any substations along the way, although, as you'll see in another few photos here, they had pylons between Yavuk and Bateau running north and south. And I was told that the Russians had brought the power in the 80s using hydroelectric sourcing or generating facilities out of the north. But that had a lot to do with the changing character of what was going on in the Central Highlands. Next photo.
Question on the roads.
Yeah.
I saw animals, but I haven't seen any traffic yet. Did you see any traffic?
Now, once we left Modoc, all I saw was bikes, motorbikes. That seemed to be the method of transportation. And as you guys know, they could load down those motorbikes with everything from hogs to boxes to an entire family. But once we got going west out of Modoc, the only thing we ran into was gas-powered motorbikes.
Pretty nice
and then-
motorbike paths.
Pardon?
Dan, how long did it take to make the trip?
We were on the road the whole day. We didn't get back in until, I'd say about 6 p.m. We went through Bateau, on out to Yavuk, and then north up the San May Valley, all the way to Trebong. We didn't see any camp up there. I didn't have a map or compass, and we had a cloudburst. I mean, when we got north of Trebong there, and of course that screwed up directions real bad. I couldn't, I didn't have the sun any longer. But we ran into a couple of kids that were selling jewelry, and I was able to get them to understand I wanted to go to Quang Ngai, and I followed them into Quang Ngai, and we made it there just before dark. So I suspect we did about 125, 140 miles or so that day. Again, the route being south out of Quang Ngai, west out of Modoc, north out of Yavuk, and then east out of Trebong, back into the Quang Ngai area.
And what year was this again?
2005. Now this is,
I'm too impatient to wait. So were there any molten yards in the area?
yes, and you'll see them in the next few pictures.
Okay. All right.
We didn't get a chance to talk to any of them. Once we realized that there wasn't any way to look for people that might know SF people from Bateau, it was pretty much sightseeing the rest of the day and then once we ran into that rainstorm in the afternoon and got lost, it was an issue then of trying to figure out how to get back to Quang Ngai. This is what's left of the TOC. You can see right in the center of the picture is one of the walls out of that 50 caliber position. It's been pretty well beaten down. The door access to the TOC is right below that. We did nothing but look in there. It was highly questionable what was going on in there, and we chose not to enter it. To the right is Alan, the revetment that you and I poured to protect those 8K generators. I have a bigger picture of a minute that I'll show. Next photo. This is looking back towards the river. If you remember, the 515 ran across the bridge that had been destroyed directly into the front of the camp, through the camp, and then out to the west. And there was a little bit of a grade there. So you're looking back towards the river from what used to be the center of camp here. Next photo. There's a gun position. You can see the right in the center of the lit side there, you can see the firing port.
Yep.
As I remember, there were 3 or 4 of those things in the camp.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why this wasn't destroyed, but I made the comment earlier when we went through these photos that the hangars that they had built, the concrete revetments that built to protect the F-5 fighters that the gunfighters flew out of Da Nang, they had not been destroyed. They were being used, and a number have been turned into reefers. In other words, they had blocked both ends of those things and put generators and compressors outside, and they'd use them to store whatever needed to be refrigerated. I saw that on a couple of occasions. But in any event, that's a fighting position. That's the other part of the camp that one of the small artifacts in the camp that I was able to recognize. Next photo. Alan, here's our product of a week's work. Alan had it all formed, and you'll note that he didn't have any rebar or internal materials. He used fence posts and barbed wire on the inside of it, and I thought did a pretty good job. You can see that we collected different kinds of fill to put into our concrete mixer over the, Alan, it took about a week to pour that thing, didn't it?
Yeah, two or three walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In any event, it was stable enough that for whatever reason, it wasn't taken out when they leveled the camp. And this, over to the left side, about midway up the wall, there's a dark object. That's one of the fence posts that popped out of the form. And when I complained about it, Alan said he wasn't into really attempting to do anything artistic here. He just wanted to protect the generator. But I thought you did a nice job, Alan. Next photo. Now, we went back and forth between the village, or the town, I guess, and the camp. I was trying to get oriented and figure out where I was and what else had changed. But this is a shot directly from the Ville, bottom of the Ville, into where the camp gate would have been, had the camp still been there. But that's the bridge that's there now. And if you look over to the left, you'll see they've got some kind of water processing technology that they're using. I don't know whether they're pulling fresh water out of there to treat for the village or what they're doing with it. But
And Dan, is that like if you're standing in the village looking straight over to where the camp was coming right up the main?
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep. And again, I don't know what those two things are. I suspect that they might be treating water. Okay, next photo. Now this you should recognize. I don't think this has changed at all. That's the road the French put in on the way to Yavok, headed west out of the facility. The only change is you can see you've got distribution lines running there to the left. And then if you look right there in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a pylon, and they're bringing three-phase down out of the north, from what I understand. Now, I didn't see any substations, so I don't know whether the distribution there is coming from a substation that I didn't see, or whether it's coming in from MODOC. But they had power everywhere, kind of like you see in a rural area. They've done a real good job of that. Next photo. Okay, I think you're in a little tight here. Can you back up a little bit, Steve? There you go. I think this is mountain yard rice. You can see your patties are pretty tight. They're old. That's the way the mountain yards would dry it. You know, they wouldn't harvest a whole lot, as I remember what was going on. But here we are. We've gone through where the Yavok camp used to be. We didn't see anything. I couldn't even find the airstrip. And we left 24 or 515 at a turn where the road was heading down to Khantoum. And there was a dirt road that ran north up the Sanray Valley. Now, I'd never been there before, but you know, it was kind of where we wanted to go. And it was where that position is directly south, headed north towards Strabong, and this is about a half mile up that road. Next picture. I took this because I wanted to remember the condition of that particular road. There were parts of this road that were in pretty good shape. As you can see, there's a culvert directly in front of us there. The road doesn't look real bad, but here you can see it's pretty badly eroded. And there were parts of it where I don't think they could have gotten a tracked vehicle across it. But that particular road was not being maintained. And I don't know whether it's been replaced or not. In any event, we were able to get on it and take it all the way up to Trabong. Next photo.
I'm looking at that picture, and in the upper left part there, I can see Mud Hank on his knees walking right across that.
Here we had a break in the diluvial downpour that we ran into, and we're up north of Trabong here, trying to figure out what direction to go in. And I took this photo because it's actually one of about half a dozen photos. They're bringing a bridge, obviously, across whatever the river this is. But it was kind of typical of a lot of the construction that we saw going on over there. I mean, they were doing some big stuff with infrastructure. All I could find out was a good part of the equipment they were using and a lot of the financing was coming out of Japan. Next photo.
Did you say Japan?
Yeah, there were a lot of Japanese banks that were identified. Now, if you can zip into the front of that bus, Steve. What you'll note is this was typical of the transportation on Route 1. Here you can see these guys.
Oh, no,
This is Da Nang to Quang Ngai, but down in the left-hand part of the window was Bunyan. So, you know, they were using one pretty heavily when I was over there. I didn't see any other roads that were getting as much traffic as that was, but it was predominantly, we were in a car that we'd rented with a driver, and the rest of the transportation seemed to be buses. And of course, the ubiquitous motorbikes that were running around everywhere. Next photo. As you got up towards Da Nang, the construction got more impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know what this was, but it was typical of some of the large buildings that I'd passed without really understanding what kind of commerce or what was going on. But there was some rather substantive construction going on. I didn't see anything over 20, 25 stories, but there was a lot of building going on up in Da Nang. Looked like Scandinavian tourists, and they're starting to turn the beach into something that hopefully would attract tourists. Next photo. This is the last one. I took this one because I got an engineering background and I was impressed with a lot of the activity going on here. I noticed that while, you know, you have to look around pretty carefully to find it, they're still using bamboo, but they're using it up there to hold that safety shrouding off the side of the building. They've got an elevator on the far left corner. They've got obviously a couple of construction cranes. Everybody on top of it got a hard hat on, and you know, I was impressed with a lot of the technical aspects of the way they were managing that process. That's it. That's those are the photos I chose to share. Unfortunately, not a lot left of Bateau, not the way we remember.
Can I give a comment?
Go.
Yeah, you know, about, I don't know, several years ago, 5 or 6 years ago at least, I went on Google Earth and looked up Bateau, and the airstrip, what they did was build a subdivision of homes on both sides of the airstrip. So it looks like a road, but you can tell that that's the airstrip. And I don't know how much it's changed today, but this was pretty neat the way they used that airstrip for a road.
And when you went through past Bateau into Yabuk, did it have a similar situation? Was it as well developed as Bateau? Because it looks like
no. As soon as you got west out of Bateau, it was like I remember it.
Okay, well, did the Yabuk camp hold up where you could see where it was?
No, and it wasn't that I didn't look. You know, I've been in and out of there a couple of times, you know, by helicopter, because a lot of times when we were resupplying, when I got to B team level and we'd bring stuff down, we'd end up going over to not just Bateau, but we'd drop in on Yabuk as well. And it was pretty heavily populated almost exclusively by Montagnard. But I couldn't see or find anything there that I regarded as recognizable. And then, like I said, when we got headed north along the Song Ray there, it was almost like that they were abandoning that road. But they had power along the side of it, so, you know, that hadn't been overlooked. Oh, one other interesting thing. We were headed north on the Sound Ray, and I looked down as we passed a Smallville, and here's a big circle, maybe 30, 40 people. And we couldn't figure out what they were doing. So we stopped and looked. It was a group of mountaineers. It was, you know, I'd say probably 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Charlie, my son, figured it out. They were looking at a television set. A whole group of, you know, probably the only television set they had in the bill. But I thought that was really interesting.
That was a really great presentation. I appreciate it. I hate to cut in right now, but I've got to bail here. And first of all, I want to thank Steve for everything you did to set this up. I'm sorry I don't know any of you guys, but I do appreciate what you've done. I do appreciate what you did. And those were very momentous times in our lives. And I'm always proud of what I saw and I experienced. And I hope you're as proud as what you did and what you experienced, because this is the true fabric of what we were all about at that time. You guys did a great job, and I appreciate it. Steve, I really appreciate your efforts. I hope we can somehow keep in some sort of contact of what's going on here.
Everybody's got all the email addresses in the email that I sent to them. There's no reason somebody can't organize a Zoom meeting for that group. I've got to go on to 3 Corps after I finish up with I Corps, but you can contact each individuals or contact us as a group. You've got the assets to do it with. If you need some help, let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, guys. Proud of you all. We'll hope to see you in the future sometime.
See you, Chuck.
Good seeing you.
Good
Good meeting you, Chuck.
Nice to meet you, Chuck.
Thank you very much. Glad I met all of you guys.
Yeah. Hey, Steve. Hey, Cassius. I'm gonna have to head out as well. I tell you, I didn't know any of you guys before, but I'm telling you, I really enjoyed this. I'm kind of trying to conjure up pictures of back then and kind of compare them with what you just showed us. And man, I think I saw a filling station. Looked like a, you know, this has been great, man. And it's been nice meeting you guys. And I'm gonna stay in touch, Steve, and you know, continue to enjoy all the stuff you made available to us. Want you to know how much I appreciate it. You guys take care. I wish all of you the best.
Cassius,
Likewise,
Cassius, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Before you go. On one of the last operations I did with Dean Sheets in the Nuclear Valley, we brought a young Montagnard boy back to camp, about 8 or 9 years old. Him and his chicken. He had a chicken in a cage, and he got real close to somebody in that training camp. Almost treated him like a father. Was that you?
I tell you, I've got a picture of a little fella, and on the back, let me tell you guys what I did. It was such a sweet gesture. I've got the picture of him and me. I'm hugging him. I'm a little guy. He's even smaller. And I sent it to my wife. And the little note I've got on the back is, this is my little buddy, and he wouldn't let me hug him, you know, because he's a soldier. Yeah, I still have that. Yeah, I'm glad you remember that. I'm sure it's the same kid. Yeah,
I was amazed at how close you two guys got. I just was so impressed with that.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I were to go back, Dan, I would try to find Max Alley-Oop and Harry Truman at the camp. I mean, that's the sole reason I would almost go back to camp. I don't know if you, Cassius, if you remember these 3 boys And we had two great cooks at Bateau that we had the best food in, I think, all the camps in I-Corps, Bafa and Badap.
Absolutely.
Bafai was
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Yes. Because remember, guys, all of the everything was furnished to us by the A-team. All we had were bunks out there. We'd go out the gate. They'd run us off after we finished playing cards and in the team house. I remember that team house, the music, all the loud talking and all. And then we'd have to head out and be gone, supposed to be gone before nightfall. That was the rule. But we'd stay over sometimes. And
Yeah.
it was like the brotherhood that was there. It was, I think of times every now and then it crosses my mind. And I just appreciated the way we were treated by the A-team there. Yeah. Of course, the only drawback here, not a drawback, but it's what I kind of expected to see, at least one face that was there when I was there at the training center. But well, didn't happen.
Walt did some actuarial studies on there. He decided that the training center had more losses than any other element of our camp.
Yeah.
As to the percentage of the whole.
Training center was has suffered actually it's suffered the third most deaths, then and since then, of any of the specialties or
Yeah.
the team sergeants have 75% of them are gone.
Yeah.
Followed by the weapons people. 65% are gone. Training center, almost 64%.
Wow.
But then we're all getting a little long in the tooth, so I suppose the numbers aren't that surprising, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, this just warms my heart, man. Just so good. This was a tremendous experience. I want you guys to know how much I appreciate it, and I'm really listening to it. Now, Yavuk was the last camp in our corps, if I remember correctly, right?
It was, but now it was Vietnamese in the end. They changed it at some point in time to 100% Vietnamese. No Americans were down there.
Yeah, well, see, it was we used to call it the Vietnamese camp.
Yeah.
Along that strip there, it was the only Vietnamese camp. Yeah.
And they had about the least number of kills of any camp there too.
And, well, we know why.
I did a study on the SF camps after we left in this book here, and at Bateau, I was surprised to see how long these camps lasted after SF left. But Bateau was there. The 69th Border Ranger Battalion was forced to withdraw 10/30/72. That should surprise you as to.
That surprises me.
Then, Stephen, you're saying that's after the Easter offensive in 72, right?
It still lasted. It was still there.
Yeah.
It wasn't until basically as they started fighting over the flags. Chivuk actually was overrun 9/21/74.
Right.
So, that's a long time.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
So each of these camps had a surprisingly longer history than I would have given them credit for in 1970.
I agree.
And
Jim, when did you leave Bateau?
Who, me?
Jim Spengler.
I left. Sorry, you talking to me?
Yeah, Jim Spengler. I was wondering when you ended your tour at Bateau.
I left I got there in September of '69 and left in February of '70 and went to the C team. That's why I was saying I thought the training center closed.
It did.
Okay, they sent, yeah, we all, I never saw the other guys either. Hancock, Captain John, the captain, I never saw any rest. They went someplace else. I was the only guy that went to the C team.
Captain Maroney closed out the training center.
Yeah, he was yeah, I've got a picture around
Big
here
guy.
somewhere. Big guy, yeah. Yeah. I never saw any of them after that. I think I did see a couple that came through heading to come to Dunn for R&R, but I never knew what happened to them.
Yeah, it's just, at least while I was there, one day Captain Maroney came up and said they're closing the camp. We're all going to be leaving. So they brought in the caribous and everybody left. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they had
But
stopped the
Cassius-
123s coming in. One of them had a flat, and the Air Force said no more 123s. Only caribous.
But Cassius, what did you do after Bateau? I mean, after going back to the stateside?
I went back to Fort Devens. I went to the 10th.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
went to the 10th, and Alpha Company 10 was still in Germany. I went to Bravo. Well, we had Bravo, Charlie, and Delta at Fort Devens, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah,
Were you there in April of '72 at Fort Devens?
absolutely. I stayed there till I got there. I got there on my birthday, 1970, and left there on my way to the Sergeant Major Academy in '76. I spent more time in Devens than I did at Bragg.
Look, I am trying to find somebody who was there in '72 who
Okay.
knows about a TDY team that included Charles Gibson, the commander was Mac Wynn, and Horton Daniels, and one other guy. Did any of those names ring a bell?
No. You just have names, no.
Well, they were all from Devens, and they went over to Vietnam. And what happened was, somebody complained that I'd written books about the 10th group, about the 5th group, 1st group, and 7th group going to Vietnam TDY, and I didn't write about the 10th group. And I said, as far as I know, they didn't. They were all inter-theater transfer. And he said, nope.
Yeah.
I went TDY, and here's my orders. I couldn't argue with that. But he was the second team. The first team was Charles Gibson. He was killed on that mission. Louis Trujillo, Horton Daniels, and Mac Wynn. Those are the 4 people on that mission.
Nah, names don't ring a bell.
Yeah.
You say they left, they were in the 10th, left the 10th and went to Vietnam?
Went to Vietnam, that was the response to the Eastern Offensive.
Yeah.
They went there with little beacons, and they were talking to C-130s targeting NVA tanks, and they had B-52s on call.
Nah, that may have been one of those operations we didn't hear anything about. If we weren't in it, we didn't hear about it, I guess.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out more about, because I think it's one of the more hidden stories, because the people who were there on the second trip, which was after the offensive was pretty well quieted down, they went back to Fort Bragg in other capacities. In 1975, they said they're sitting there watching TV, listening to radio, and saying, when are they going to send us? When are they gonna send us? And they never did.
Hmm.
But the capability that they had was incredible.
Yeah. No, none of those names ring a bell.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna head out, guys, and again, appreciate y'all, and listen, take care of yourselves, okay?
Good to meet you, Cassius.
You
Same
too,
here.
Cassius.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Good
same
to meet
here.
you, Cassius.
I'll be in touch, and if Steve keeps it up like he's doing, I'll probably get information to call and say hi to you every now and then, guys.
Gritzmacher
Okay.
and Hancock are around there. I'm surprised I didn't see them here.
Yeah, I was looking forward to see Hancock.
Yeah, I'm surprised there just weren't more people here. Usually, I have a lot bigger attendance out of that number of people
Yeah.
you have on the emails.
All right, I'm gonna keep an eye out for the
Okay.
next time.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys. God bless you guys.
Same to you, Cassius.
Thank you.
Duke, you want to ask your question again?
Question, Tom, bro. Tom, were you at Hatan for a while?
Yes, sir.
Was that before or after Bateau?
Before Bateau. I came down to Bateau after I was at Hatan.
Okay.
Are you the lieutenant that poured so much damn concrete out there?
Next, I was a slave to Alan Johnson.
I remember trying to teach the mountain yards how to push a wheelbar. That was a training experience there.
Yeah. I try to tell people sometimes about the Special Forces camp, how the rank just didn't mean a whole lot in the Special Forces camp. Because of course, Alan had a thing about pouring concrete. Some people worked one cement to two sand. He worked two officers to one NCO.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Oh, Ralph, you're so true. You know, I apologize.
What is they say? What doesn't kill you makes you better. I'm a whole lot better for it, I'm sure.
Well, I've learned a lot since the Army. I actually built the kitchen that is behind me, but I went over to China for 10 years to do urban design and construction. And no, that was just the start of it. I don't know if you remember that Bateau had really a good library.
Yeah, it had all the Ian books.
Well, I read The Sand Pebbles there on Radio Watch at night, and after reading it, I said, I've got to go to China sometime. And 35 years later, I went over in 2005 and stayed there for 10 years. Came back in 2016. But no, I've learned a lot from you guys and life in general. And no, I sure would like to go back to Bateau.
Yeah, I've thought about it, but Dan makes it sound a lot more doable than I thought it would have been. And like somebody else thought, you get onto Google Earth, and I can make it as small as I can make it or as big as I can make it, and it's hard to identify anything that we left there.
That's right.
Peacock went over in 2011, and he stayed there for a whole month at Bateau. And he found it and he was there a year or two earlier than we were.
Okay.
And just sounds very interesting to go back.
Peacock can find something interesting in anything he does. He can go out and counteract with grizzly bears and write a book about it.
Yeah.
More than one book.
Character. More than one book, right?
They just put out a new book, you know.
Yeah.
But Dan, they built the BC built a war memorial there, and a big cemetery up on the hill that the old A camp was at.
Well, I went back in 1997. I went back, I spent about a month in Saigon, 95, 97, I can't remember which. Didn't do much traveling around, but the impression I got was I really was not interested in going back there for any longer time. I can get better Vietnamese food here in Houston. And,
Dan, I was really surprised that in your pictures
that there wasn't more of the concrete, as thick as that concrete was, and I guess I didn't realize that Alan had done all that, but as thick as the concrete was, that there wasn't more of it, especially where you went down to the initial entrance into the underground, or the area where we all live.
Yeah.
I mean, that had to have like 2 or 3 feet above it.
I would agree with you.
I guess when I look on Google Earth, I mean, the thing that amazes me is that you can't, Dan's picture shows some things you can't see on Google Earth. And that's today, which is probably 15 years after he was there. But it just seems interesting. Like the top was probably almost 3 stories tall. And the runway, I didn't, someone said he picked it up, that use it for a street down a subdivision. When I look at it, I can't even, I don't even identify that. And I know pretty well where the camp's at because of the 2 rivers. And just one other thing to follow up on what Alan said, I'm sorry for the kids we had there, but between Doug and Max and I mean, those kids were really loyal to us, and I can't imagine filling that water buffalo 3 or 4 times a day just so we could take showers, you know.
I know.
They really were something.
You remember?
And Max must have been like 12 or 14 when we left, when I lived there.
Yeah.
In Asheboro or Asheville, one of the places in North Carolina, SF bought 100 acres of land, and that we have a fairly substantial Montagnard community in that area. And on one occasion, they had a national reunion of Montagnards and had something like 4,000 people for Memorial Day weekend. If you're in North Carolina, you really want to go over there on Memorial Day and see them. They built at least one longhouse. I think they were starting a second one now since I've been there. It's really good. And what our recollection of the Montagnards and what we did to try to help the ones that got out. All of these people have gotten out, you know, well into the 90s, or starting well into the 90s. They didn't get out before. And they've done pretty well. The first generation got involved in furniture making in North Carolina. Second generation went to school, doing all kinds of things. There's lawyers and doctors. We put a guy, we gave a guy a scholarship, and he is now teaching anthropology at Texas Tech. So he had,
amazing.
We're going to send him for his doctorate, but he just hasn't had time to go do that. He's got his master's and undergraduate from Texas Tech. So, you know, that's an interesting program that Special Forces set up to help the Montagnards that we found in Cambodia or other places and brought them over here. Those were Vietnamese Montagnards that went there to hide out from the North Vietnamese. And we're waiting for their leader, Ibrahim Newell, to come rescue them. And he'd been dead for 20 years by that time. They didn't know about it. So it's an interesting community, and you'd be surprised. The biggest problem with Asian names is you can't look them up in a phone book. No way. You know, it's hard to find people. You know, I've been looking for that Chu Van Chu now for probably 20 years, and I never found it. He may never come to the United States, but you know, looking him up is almost impossible. So,
does anybody remember Captain McClam?
yeah, Jim McClan went on Sante Rig.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I ran into him when I got back to the States. I got sent back to Bragg for 3 months before I ETS. And I was down on, what's that South Carolina beach that's so popular?
Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach. I'm down on Myrtle Beach, and I almost hit this guy with the car. He ran out in front of me. it was McClan. So rather than ending up in a fist fight, it ended up being, wow, where have you been? And he apparently had volunteered for that raid, and he told me a little about it. They took him down to Eglin, and they trained during the night and would pull the village apart or pull the camp. You know, they'd put the camp together after dark. They'd train, and then before it got light, they'd take it apart because they didn't want the Russians picking it up on satellite. And it was a big disappointment, obviously, when they went into Sante. There was nothing there, but I guess a couple of guards. But that was pretty interesting. And the piece of information that I picked up that I hadn't known was they had launched out of Thailand in Jolly Greens. That was where they went in.
Really?
Yeah.
There are a couple of good books on the Sante raid. The earliest one was done up by Benjamin Schemmer, and then those two. One of them is done up by the Special Forces guy who was the youngest guy on the raid, and another one was done up by one of the pilots of the C-130s.
Is that right?
And I got video of both of those authors speaking somewhere, hiding around. But you know, I've got so much crap around and so many internet sites, I can't even remember where they all are. But you know, I probably am remiss in not mentioning the fact that the SLA has a very vibrant organization, a Special Forces Association. Both of them have a very vibrant organization. And next year, in September, the Special Forces Association is meeting out in Colorado Springs. The SOA meets, the Special Operations Association meets in October of every year. But, you know, you only see a small percentage of the people, but I always tell people, if you want to see somebody, call them up and say, I'm going to go to Colorado Springs this time, come out there. I mean, that's the way to do it. But right now with this vehicle, you've got this thing here. That's a pretty nice way of communicating. And you don't have to wear a mask when you're doing this shit.
But Lieutenant
Duke, you want to raise your questions again?
Well, I don't really have a lot of questions. I feel very humbled and privileged to, you know, to be a fly on the wall here. I was interested by the mention of there having been a good library by, I think, Alan Johnson mentioned that, and reading the Sand Pebbles. I don't know.
Right.
Do you remember any of the other titles in the library?
No.
They had all
yeah.
the James Bond books.
I'm sorry?
They had all the James Bond books.
All the James Bond books. Perfect. That's great.
And they probably have Jean Lardigue. That's just a guess, but I was introduced to Jean Lardigue in Vietnam. And
oh, I've never heard that the name pronounced that way. So it took me.
Well, who knows how I screw up the language?
No. It just took me a minute to put that together with the spelling of the name.
Well, tell me about the guy you're studying.
Well, Skip, Joseph Kaufman, he was originally from Chicago, and then he was a singer. He was discovered at the age of 16 by a talent manager and brought out to Hollywood. And then I haven't been able to quite make out whether he enlisted or was drafted in April 1965, but he went in, you know, as I said, he arrived in Bateau, according to your research, Steve, in March 67, and he left in March 68. He and Doug were fairly close. I've talked to Doug quite a few times. And then he got out and he went back to Hollywood and he did a few movies. And then unfortunately, he became involved with the marijuana ring, which you know, ended up with him dying in a plane crash. I sort of became interested in this. I became interested in the story. I was just watching this guy go apparently to attend to his dog. But I just had stumbled onto something about the plane crash, and I just sort of became interested in the story and was trying to sort of, you know, figure out exactly what had happened, and here I am, basically. I guess, Mr. Graves, I guess you would have been there when you were there.
Yes.
It looks like. Do you remember him at all?
Who, Peacock?
No, Joseph Kaufman.
No. Joe Kaufman? No.
Yeah, Skip, his name was?
Do you?
I could,
Do you,
I could,
Lieutenant?
I could pick him out of a lineup if I saw the pictures. I remember what his,
I have a picture of him right here. I held this up a little bit earlier. Does that ring a bell, or hold on, let me,
I'm not seeing it here.
okay.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, I think if I
Yep.
speak, maybe it automatically goes there.
Yep, had a space between his teeth. I was going to mention that a minute ago.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly right.
Yep.
This picture was taken, I think, the year after he got back from Vietnam, actually.
Huh?
I was told by one of his former girlfriends that he had a VC flag. I've never, nobody else seems to recall that, but I'm wondering if.
Were you guys manufacturing any flags at that time?
Not that I know of.
Well, a lot of camps were. We made more VC flags from SF than the VC made.
That's sort of the same thing with crossbows, isn't it, or something?
That's right.
Well, there was an
Right
incident
together.
that's reported in this book that Steve recommended to me. I was going to ask about that. And then I just have one other kind of dumb question, really. This is perhaps the most interesting Tet-68 encounter was reported by Camp Bateau on February 1st, 1968. The Bateau district headquarters was attacked by 700 Viet
Ah,
Cong,
damn it.
half of whom carried spears and knives. The bizarre assault cracked the perimeter, and sappers disposed of the district building and several bunkers with plastic explosives. They were driven off by mortar fire. Another similarly armed VC company pushing multi-yards in front of them was broken up by special forces-led camp troops on the airstrip. 6 Viet Cong were captured along with 20 spears, 35 knives, and 1 carbine. I don't think I read that very well, but I'm just wondering if there are any memories of that event, or
What was the date again?
it says here 1st February 1968.
I had left the camp in the latter part of '67, so I don't remember. And I was back at C Team at that time, and I don't remember there being any big to do about it. I mean, I can remember when there were like Langvay and Kam Duc, it was all the talk. I mean, it was riveting. I never heard about something, especially regarding a camp that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Garrett?
No, I don't have any recollection of that. But I was
No.
only there 3 months, so I didn't.
Alf, you're muted.
Did you by any chance, Garrett, if I may call you by your first name, did you by any chance go on
You're muted.
an R&R with Doug Peacock at any point?
Never went on R&R.
Okay. Skip did go on R&R with him, and Doug said he got the clap in Hong Kong. And Doug had to treat him, give him a shot in the ass with penicillin. Treat him.
What were you going to say? You were muted. So what?
That can happen. That can have it to you on R&R.
Yeah,
Yeah, good. Never have figured out why, but it does.
Yeah, right.
Well, Doug said he took Skip and the girl who gave him the clap out to dinner.
Well, good.
And yeah, I think Doug also said he bought a camera, or he was camera shopping or something in Hong Kong, for what that's worth. Let me ask.
Doug was supposed to, I talked to him on the phone. He was supposed to be here on that.
I figured I would see him. I spoke with him last, a couple of weeks ago, and that's, in fact, he mentioned that Steve had been in touch with him recently. And then by coincidence, Steve and I spoke that very day, just completely by coincidence, and he mentioned he's going to be doing this thing. And, again, I feel, privileged to, have been a fly on the wall. I just want to ask, this is my dumb question, if Martha Ray, Mr. Beardsley, if you remember Martha Ray visiting the camp while, or you.
She did not visit the camp while I was there. However, she did visit the C team while I was there in late 67 or early 68.
Okay. This was kind of interesting because, again, Skip had been living in Hollywood, just and pursuing a show business career before he went into the Army. And it was just, it was just interesting to think that for him, Martha Ray, might have been sort of like somebody from home, you know what I mean? Like from his. I don't have any recollection of much of, if at all, that he ever mentioned anything about Hollywood or acting or anything like that. My recollection of him is that he was sort of joking a fair amount, and that was kind of it. I don't know how long we overlapped, but you mentioned an air crash. Is that how he perished? That's correct. Yeah.
What kind of a plane?
It was a Lockheed Lodestar, and it's I don't. I don't want to get too carried away with. I mean, once I start talking with this, I might keep going until Steve sets me up. Yeah, the plane had only been purchased about a month prior, but it was being used for hauling marijuana back and forth over the Texas border. And there was an incompetent pilot. Basically, that's what led to the crash. It crashed on. It looped and crashed, and there had been an attempted takeoff already, and the plane had looped. And then the second time, I guess the wing. I was told that the fuel was in the wing, the left wing or something of the plane, and it hit I guess the tarmac or something, and the plane went up into the flames. So, yeah, it's rather disturbing because I know that there are a couple of bodies found near the rear exit doors. It looks as though they were I think the pilot was killed probably on impact, and I think that there were 2 other people aboard the plane. It looks like they were trying to get out of the plane. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that both of them would have died from smoke inhalation, rather than being burned alive.
Well,
sorry to.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he wouldn't have spoken about Hollywood, because I don't think he, I think as a rule he was not that forthcoming. I think generally about his background period. Like. The same thing, like in Hollywood, he never spoke about, Vietnam. I think very rarely, I think, did he ever speak of it. So I think he was pretty compartmentalized that way.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, all right, Steve, back to you. Oh, Mr. Spangler, I wanted to ask you, are you in Richmond right now, Virginia?
No, we sold our house in Richmond and moved. We're about 2 miles from the Blue Ridge Parkway in a little place called Wintergreen. Where are you?
Well, I'm in Los Angeles, but grew up in Charlottesville,
Oh,
Virginia.
did you?
Yes, sir.
Well,
And
Charlottesville is about 40 minutes. You just come out to one of those small roads and then just head. It's the highest mountain around. They put a ski resort up here.
yeah.
And we bought a cabin up here years and years ago.
Uh-huh.
And so we decided our daughter married with an Intel guy, and they moved to Hawaii. And we decided we didn't need the house, so we moved up here into the little cabin. So it's we're about, well, I guess 3,000 plus feet, and it snows all the time, and the wind blows 65, 70 miles an hour, but it's in the peak of the mountains, so it's beautiful.
Oh, that's great. No, we actually here in LA, it was windy all day yesterday. I love windy weather. But I talked to my dad today. He's in near Standardsville, which is, we're outside Charlottesville. And he said it was around, we worked out that it was warmer where he was than here in LA, so, yeah.
It was
so
75 there today.
That's what he said something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. We went down to Costco today earlier. I had an appointment to VA in Richmond, and then we stopped at Costco en route coming back home. So we couldn't believe the temperature either. It was very nice.
Yeah. Well, the last time I visited right before the pandemic, I think it was New Year's Day. It was over, it was like 75 degrees or something like that. I was on my dad's farm. I couldn't believe, I was walking around in like a t-shirt, outside. I couldn't believe it.
It's amazing.
So, yeah. Well, I hope that isn't evidence of this rumored climate change.
Well, we've had more snow this winter than we have in the previous many years. So, and it's been colder. Some nights it's been down to 0 to 5, which is probably not a record for other places of the United States. But up here, it's more like the temperature back in the early 90s than it has been recently. But it's been very cold and very snowy, which the people that ski really like all that.
Yeah.
I took winter training. I don't know if you all ever had the privilege of going to a place, it's a West Virginia National Guard camp, but it's in Camp Dawson, West Virginia, out a place called Kingwood. And that is absolutely the coldest place in the world. We had these skis. It was for winter, for cold weather training, The skis were close to 40 feet long, I do believe, with the 110 pound or so rucksack. And here we're going across country, and I thought, and they say this is fun. And by the way, it was about 10 below 0. And I mean to tell you, I'd much rather fight in Vietnam than I feel really sorry after that winter training for the guys in Korea and other places where they've had to fight when it's been so tremendously cold. I think jungle is far better.
Absolutely.
I was very happy being in the 5th and not in the 10th.
Yes.
I live here in Houston as a refugee from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Steve.
The cold or the taxes.
Yeah.
Look, there's a good book on Martha Ray, but it's not indexed. So I can't look for any references to Bateau, but there's just a lot of stuff on her travels in Vietnam.
She went to Chula one time, Steve, during 69 to B-11.
She was everywhere in Vietnam. Now, I'm really surprised to find that nobody said, okay, she was here. Because every other place can tell me exactly when she got there.
No,
He was at Long High.
no, she was in Bateau November of '69 because I took a chopper flight. I caught on. I was 107. I went up to Trebon, but I happened to catch a flight to Bateau with her for just a day or two in November of 1969.
As I
I
said,
heard,
she was everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, you could always tell when she was coming to town. I was working the C-Team radio in 68 and they brought in cases of vodka because that's all she ever drank.
Right.
And they'd bring in wheelbarrows, hand trucks full of vodka. And then she'd go down to the Mike Force and party down there also.
Yeah. I'm gonna mention one other thing. Bateau really had the recon teams. The 2 recon platoons that we had were the best. You couldn't ask for anything more.
I couldn't agree more. Remember Lock?
Yes.
And what was the Montagnard's name that led the other one?
I can't remember. And
Din Lang was in there. Lock and Din Lang, and
Yeah.
I can't think of the other one.
Okay. I mean, wait, didn't like, yeah. You couldn't ask for braver people.
No, you couldn't. They were tremendous.
In fact, they were so brave, they were almost dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I've told several people you could go out with 30 Vietnamese and not see anything. If you saw anything, they were too far away. There were too many of them. There was too much this, too much that. You went out with 3 mountain yards, just like, oh, there they are. Let's go get them. And they were
Completely different.
Yeah. Ralph, where are you at now?
I am in a little town called Salado, Texas. It's between Austin and Waco. And I spend the summers in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay.
Where are you now, Alan?
In Portland, Oregon. I've been here for 31 years.
No one, do you have anything to do with the chapter up there?
Oh yeah, you bet. No, we have monthly meetings and
I know.
it's a pretty good group.
I started there, I'm in Eugene, and I got involved with the reserve unit in Portland in 71, and then been with them ever since.
Yeah.
Pat Clark asked me to ask you guys about Horace French and Brian Peterson. Does that ring a bell with anybody? He's trying to look them up.
I think I worked for AT&T, and I think Peterson used to work for AT&T.
Oh.
And at one point, he was trying to put together a trip back to Vietnam, but I don't know where it went. He was in New Jersey.
All right, Horace W. French Jr. is his name.
Uh-huh.
And I have him 46 company in Thailand. I don't have a current location for him. But our last number I tried was the 941 area code, wherever that might be.
Whatever that is, yeah.
And who's the other guy?
And Brian Peterson?
PTRS. Brian R. Peterson in Bellevue, Washington. I last spoke to him in 2012.
Well, it's Pat Clark that was asking about him. So I'll pass that along. Thank you.
Steve, while you have got that in front of you, what about Dean Sheets? He was our radio guy and was tremendous.
He's not where he's supposed to be, but he doesn't answer the phone.
He was actually from Waverly, Ohio, but
Well, wait. My address on Dean Sheets is from Rayford. He has
Rayford, North Carolina.
Yeah, Rayford, North Carolina. He was running a motorcycle track down there or something outside of Rayford. And Ralph, the last time I saw you was in Rayford at the Parachute Club.
might have been.
Yeah, after Vietnam. And we were out there, this would be early 70. Early 70, you came out with your wife and looked at the drop zone, and I was out there. That's all I did. when I got back.
Sergeant Cromer.
Pardon me?
Sergeant Cromer, I was the S4 there, and Sergeant Cromer was big. It was, we often stopped by the parachute club in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Sheets was last seen in Rayford. I had an email, had a phone number, but he never bothered to respond.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. He's like that.
Maybe he'll respond better to somebody else, but he's talked to me in the past, and he's a life member of the Special Forces.
Okay. And Dan Burks, you can have my pants any day.
You better explain that real quick.
Well, Dan and I were out in patrol. I wasn't supposed to be out, and he had ripped your crotch out, right, or something.
Yeah,
on
well, I've
maybe
got
third or
part of
fourth
the
day.
pants. The pants were not working anymore.
Yeah, okay. And he asked me for my pants, and I gave my my pants before I went in.
That was the Rice operation. That was Stallings. Remember, we had Yavuk involved. It was us. We had the 4th and the 3rd. There were a number, and we had Minlong. There were 4 different military units surrounding that valley, and flying in civilians out of Bateau to harvest BC rice. And we had to pull security along the south side of that valley.
That's right.
So I took you and Carmona, wasn't it?
Could be.
Well, the point was, I didn't feel I could provide the kind of security that was necessary to fly civilians into that valley with just me and one other SF. So I brought you along. And when Jones got back to camp, he says, no, we never send 3 guys out. We only send 2. So that's what caused your recall. But what had happened was my Tigers had split right in the inseam, providing unfortunate exposure because none of us wore socks or underwear. And I didn't have an extra pair. So when Johnson got pulled out, I said, hey, you want to leave your trousers with me? That's the honest truth.
Well, the interesting must have been is that Alan Johnson's a big guy.
Yeah, well, hey, I wasn't into size. I was exposed.
You couldn't be choosy in that kind of situation.
And you were very generous. I really appreciate it. So. Stallings came in on that operation. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And we, oddly enough, when we got in there, we somehow surprised some local BC operation. Wasn't NBA, it was BC. And they dropped a whole bunch of shit and left that old gal sitting in the middle of their village. Do you remember that?
No.
Well, there was a lot of documents and there was a BC flag.
Yeah.
And Stallings was after that BC flag. But he spent the morning on the ground with us.
You know, for me, the most exciting patrol I ever did with Dean Sheets, and then we had about an 8 to 10 helicopter airlift down into the province south of us. We were maybe a day or 2 out of radio range, and so we had to send out a relay radio back to Bateau, but we really actually didn't run into anything big, but it was just really dark territory. I mean, it just, you had no idea what we're going to run into.
Your previous session, the previous section of this was Yavuk. And, you know, obviously you had your connection because you just on either ends of that valley. But one of the people in the previous session complimented you guys on your cook.
Yes.
Who had the best pancakes. And he said they ran operations and what they want to do, they go out as close to Bateau as possible. And then if they found nothing or had the excuse to go to your camp and eat pancakes, that's what they do.
That was Bafa and Badep and Tom Rowe. You were on them all the time. You were.
Probably was.
They bake bread every day. They bake bread, fresh bread.
Yeah, they bake bread every day.
But Stephen, the downside to having great food at Bateau was that the C team would always drop for lunch. Yeah.
Here's your fellow A team. We would come over for pancakes.
Yeah.
I remember being in the C team one time and Pork Chop gave me a case of eggs. And I said, what am I going to do with them? And he said, you freeze them and they'll thaw out slowly. They'll work. And it did.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Pork Chop was the cook there in the C team.
Yeah.
I don't know what his name was. But yeah, I had trouble with those cooks trying to get them to clean the dishes in hot water. And they just couldn't understand that using hot water to wash stuff in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One of the projects I'm working on is that the Carlisle Barracks has just begun or just finished copying a bunch of files in a room I used to do some research in. It had a lot of SF materials in it, really good stuff. And I haven't been able to get back into Carlisle in many years. And I was happy they were doing this. Their indexing is very bad. And I can't find things there very well. But I started when I was able to go to Carlisle, I put together a collection of all the monthly operational summaries from group headquarters from 1962 up to about 1965. And I gave a lot of them to Jean-Luc, who used them to talk about what happened in each camp. Every month there was a paragraph about every camp. And that was good material. All right. Now the new bunch is opened up. I've gotten from 65 to 70. I've gotten all but about 13. Actually, I think it's all but 11. Well, 13 I think I don't have. 2 of them they found in Carlisle, and I don't know how I'm going to get them from them because they can't seem to tell me how to download them. But I'm getting some help by a bunch of people in SF who are each taking a couple of these mopsums to type. And I hope that someday I will be putting them out because the stuff that I had before 1965 was really good. Just to have one paragraph a month about each camp. Now the camp mopsums are something else. They were very detailed. How many cases of VD you cure this month at your camp, or report this month at your camp, and just everything was there. But you know, try to get all those mopsums. That would be beyond. You know, it's not that good. I'll stick with the group mopsums and try and make a collection of those. So I don't know how long it's going to take me to put those together and to find the other 11. But if anybody wants to do some typing, I got lots of typing to do. So, well, I hope you'll call up your friends or email your friends whose names appear on the invitation list to this session and chastise them for not showing up. I think they missed a really good deal, really interesting session. And I will have the video of this. I'm not sure how soon, but it's not going to be a long time.
How often do we do this?
You can do it as many times as you want, but I'm going to be doing it a different A-team every week.
I see. Okay.
I'm averaging about 1 A-team per week. I do 2 on a day, but I'll spend the previous 2 weeks finding the people.
You do anything on the FOBs, FOB2, Contour?
I've done the Mike Force. I've done SOG. and I just felt the A teams were getting the short end of this thing.
I
So
see.
I
Yeah.
decided I'm going to spend the next year on the A teams. But for example, what's left of this book here is Who's Who from MacV-SOC. And
Oh,
this is a Bible in there where the books are
I
falling apart. But
I
everybody,
could probably purchase that from someplace.
you can purchase a PDF copy of it because the paper copies didn't last that long. They got
Oh,
sold out.
really?
When I brought it out, it was for sale at $75. There were people selling them on the internet at $500 and up.
Jeez.
Wow.
And I think you could call me up and buy it.
Man,
Weird.
Amazing.
Yeah, but you'll go out there sometime and you'll look for a book and you'll find out somebody's trying to sell the book for $1,000. It's the
Yeah.
only one on the internet.
Jeez.
Jerry Hickey. I don't know if you guys know Jerry Hickey or knew Jerry Hickey. He's an anthropologist who went to Vietnam, and he was everywhere. He was under a truck or something when Roger Donlin at Nam Don got his Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
Hickey was under a truck there, and he lost his notes on the tribe that was out there in that battle, which is unfortunate. Nobody knows anything about that tribe anymore. And when the Montagnard Revolt took place, General Westmoreland had him in to talk about it, and he told Westmoreland what was going on. And Westmoreland told Vern Gillespie, "Get Freund out of there. We don't need a Lawrence of the Montagnards." But anyway, one of his books I just couldn't find anywhere, and there was that one copy for sale for $1,000 over. I wasn't going to touch that. So I got a hold of it, and I have published all of his works on a CD-ROM now. I own the copyright to it. He generously passed it on, got it back from all the presses that he did pass it on. So, those are all there because he had good stuff on the Montagnards, really stuff that was fascinating. Real.
No, but Stephen, you talk about Gillespie. My decision to go to SF. I mean, I started in artillery, but I remember National Geographic, our monthly after the Kennedy assassination, and this would be maybe February 64. A whole issue on a whole issue on the Montagnard Furu, thing.
I was just looking for before you came here, or before you, because the same issue
Yeah.
had an article on Geobook, and both of them were the same. Howard Sucharek was a photographer, for both of them. I think it was January of 1965, but maybe that's why I'm having trouble. Maybe it's.
But look at maybe February 64 for that National Geographic issue on the A camp under attack, or
That's what we're talking about. It's got Brooks on the cover, and I just put in a CD-ROM over here, and it came back and says this program won't work on the computer I have, so I've got to take it over to an older computer. But I've got a collection of National Geographics, on CD, so I'll find it. But I had the physical magazine here, and I bought the rights to the article on the Montagnard Revolt, but I didn't buy the rights for the Geobook article.
There's another book about the Montagnards called "We Have Eaten the Forest" by a French anthropologist, and look that up. It's not about the northern tribes. It's around maybe Kontum to Pleiku, one of the tribes between the lower tribes. in too far.
Yeah, there's the French did some really good stuff with the Montagnards, but Hickey has really assimilated them all. When I was in play coup, one day the commander says, we are going to have a command lunch or something. I don't know what there's a term for it, but you know, all the officers had to show up for lunch. And in Vietnam, what the hell is that shit going on? So I go there, and there's this guy, short sleeve, white shirt, mild mannered looking guy. And he's just sitting there at the table, everybody else coming in. And then the colonel says, this guy knows everything about the Montagnards, most everything about the rest of Vietnam. Ask him any questions you want. And it took a while for the discussion to get going, but that guy knew a hell of a lot. He really was into this. And I kept in touch with him off and on for many years. You know, I was just peripherally involved. I don't think he knew who I was or what I was doing, but he responded to me. And one day I called him up because I hadn't talked to him for many years. And I had a question for him. And he said, I can't talk now. My publishers refused to print my book, and my computer won't work. And I can't take it off the computer. I said, calm down. If you wrote a book, it will be published if I have to publish it myself. And what kind of computer have you got? And he had a computer that was prior to the Trash 80. And this is when the IBM PC already was out there, but he had a really, really early version of Microsoft Word on this oddball computer. And I got a friend to go over there and copy the disk, or copy a disk and send it to me. I was able to recover it and bring it into Word. And I got him another computer to put it on. And a good friend of his from Vietnam was Douglas, I think it was Douglas Pike, yeah, had just moved from Berkeley to Texas Tech. And I said, you know, he's got a new manuscript. Your friend's got a new manuscript. And he said, let's see it published right away by Texas Tech. So that all worked out. But here he was, you know, just absolutely flustered. I can't talk now.
Hey, Steve, have you ever run into Paul Longer?
Yeah, Paul is supposed to be here with us next Wednesday for discussions on A-101.
All right. Well, I'd like to listen to that one.
As I say, all this stuff is being videoed now. I'm recording it. And when I first recorded it, I would record it to my computer, and I would get slightly different than what I actually saw on the screen. If I push the button that Zoom has to record to my computer, I don't quite get what I think I was getting. And if I push the button to say record to the cloud, I get 4 different versions of the same thing. Huge amount of data. But one version is better than the others. It's a speaker view where your picture, if you're talking, shows up very large. Your name is on there. It's the way it shows up here. And all of the times I bring something up on the screen, that comes up. And I talked to a friend of mine because I don't have the skill or the time to do it. And she's going to edit the film, basically just putting a title page on each film, and then taking a screen or screenshots like we've got right now of your names right here where you are on the screen, and putting that somewhere at the beginning or the end so you see the cast of characters, and then using that other version as the primary material, person who's talking and what's being shown on the screen on the sharing of screens. So, she just told me that she got a new computer and she'll get the job finished pretty soon on the first camp. And then I'll bury her on the next couple of them and we'll get them done. But she's good. She'll get that done. Another thing that I need help on, if anybody has a skill, is there's a way of finding people by the social media that they use. There was a guy here named Shook. I don't know if he was your camp or another camp. And I couldn't find anything about him except he had a Facebook page. And for what I know about Facebook, I got there, I said, hey, please contact me about your camp. And I have no idea whether I ever was sending a message to him or not. I just don't know anything about Facebook. So if anybody out there is good on social media, there are a lot of people that are findable.
Shook.
How do you spell it?
But
Okay, I guess.
in one case, I had a reference to one guy by the name of Leon Wafer. And there was an article by his son about his father who served in Vietnam in Special Forces. And there's this guy, big black guy with a beret on. How many Leon Wafers are there in the world, especially wearing a beret? So unfortunately, some 20 phone numbers I had for Leon Wafer and Leon Wafer Jr. in this little tiny town in West Texas, none of them worked. And I just couldn't find them. Still haven't been able to find them. But I talked to some other people from his camp. And said, was he black? Was he big? And yeah. And by the way, he was going to go back to his own hometown and open a barbecue joint. That guy liked his barbecue. I could see from the picture. But not being adept at social media, I have no way of really getting into the Twitter or Facebook account and saying, hey, where are you? Speak to me. So that's a skill I haven't learned and probably will never master. I got my head full up with too many other stuff.
Well, Steve, you should send me the names and I'll see what I can do.
Okay, good.
I've been pretty good at, looking into the stories, turned me into something of a gumshoe.
Yeah, well, the finding their names and addresses on white pages is what I do. And
I use that, and sometimes I use Spokio too, because because one will have information that the other doesn't have.
The social media, I think there's one website that actually tracks names on social media.
I've been amazed at I've looked for people and then suddenly I'll hear, they're right there on Facebook and some obvious place, and yet I didn't think to look there. It's partly just because I really loathe Facebook, but so if I can avoid going to Facebook, I will do it. But yeah, and I'll see what I can dig up for you, Steve.
I'll harness your resources.
Okay. I wanted to, somebody was talking earlier, I think when Cassius is around, about children, and in this Green Beret magazine article about Beto that I guess appeared in 67 or 68, there's mention of a mascot named Boomer. Does that name ring any bells to anybody? I can hold up a picture. I think there's a picture of him, if I can find it. I don't know.
What was the name? I didn't hear it.
Boomer.
Boomer, like baby boomer. Here it is. Okay. I'll show you his picture. I mean, I'm just wondering, how long, how long he was around, or I'm thinking that maybe he might have, you see this boy.
Boomer was about I don't know, 11 or 12-year-old Vietnamese kid that was always hanging around. He was there every day.
Mm-hmm.
By my memory.
Right.
right, Garrett?
Can't remember a Boomer. No.
Yeah, for sure. He was there. There was the three main characters besides the interpreters were Buffy, Ko, and Boomer. Ko was kind of a cute for a 15-year-old girl. She was there every day as kind of Buffy's helper.
Yeah.
And
they
Boomer
worked as
was
interpreters?
no, they worked in the kitchen at the team house and around.
Oh, okay.
And then we had the two interpreters, by my memory, Mr. Tom and Mr. Sam.
Yes.
And I've always been curious what happened to them. Somebody from 68 or 69 would have to confirm whether or not they were still there.
Right.
They were not.
They were not.
No.
When Walt, when there was mention earlier about the good food at Bateau, was that true when you were there also? Did you have the same cook?
I got to tell you, I cannot remember. I cannot remember pancakes. All I can remember is fried rice, and it seemed like it was 3 times a day. I didn't want to look at rice for about 10 years after I came back.
And spam.
And spam. Well, yeah, well, the fried rice was made with spam.
Yes.
Right. That was the meat, if that's what it's supposed to be.
I was kind of hoping that Carlos Einot was going to be on here because I was in camp for about 3 weeks when he rotated out. And all I can remember is him sitting on one of the bunkers on the sandbags, eating a can of spam. And I'm thinking, what in the world is this guy doing? And I found out later that he grew up on spam and he loved it. And I really wanted to know if I remembered that right, because spam had just, we ate so much of it between, we were either one way or the other. We did have good cooks. There's no question about that. They baked nice bread, but guys, it seemed like we ate a lot of spam.
Man,
And Lieutenant Cooper, do you remember we had a mascot like a mongoose or a meat rat? Huh?
I think
that lived.
I think when Sergeant Thomas, who became a captain,
yes,
we're one day in a team house, and that mongoose would run across the clotheslines in that area between the bunker, our rooms, and where we basically ate in the team house. That mongoose would run across the clotheslines. And one night, there was a lot of stuff that happened, but about 3 days later, we noticed we hadn't seen a mongoose for a while. And there was a well that we did not use that would have been to the east side of the team house. And Thomas indicated that the mongoose probably couldn't swim that long. And I think he threw that mongoose down that well. But we did have it for, I don't know where it came from, but I know it disappeared.
Yep.
I can remember the guys getting the mongoose drunk.
Well, that mongoose could run down a clothesline.
Not after it got drunk.
And it played in that area all the time. And I don't know that it was ever an issue, but apparently one of the ladies bought up or whatever complained about it, and it disappeared. I do know that, but I had a question, because I understand from McIntyre that flat track racing or the little cars become quite popular there in camp. That they had it all rigged up to where they run these slot cars all over the camp, and we didn't have anything like that. And I just wondered if anybody after us could comment on it, because we didn't have that.
We didn't either. We didn't either. And after Lieutenant Burks left, we didn't have anything like that. But to come back to the pets, the Americal Fire Base called me, and we had during my period there, we had the guy that was representative of the fire base, and they called and said, we've got too many dogs. We'd like you all to take a dog. Do you mind to do that? And I said, well, I guess I talked to Sergeant Petty, and I said, we can take a dog. Well, we brought him in. He was scared to death. He just never been on a chopper before, and
and he could barely walk when he got him in the camp. And he lasted about 2 weeks, and we all knew where he'd gone. But Dawishi says, I really feel bad about this. He was y'all's mascot. I know he's a nice dog, so I'm going to give you another mongoose. Well, I didn't know about the first one, so I said, okay, that's very nice. So we got him, and we got him all fattened up, and he disappeared too. So
Maybe that wasn't all spam that you guys were eating. Maybe there's a little mongoose.
I guarantee the dog was eaten, because the dogs would, every time we got a dog, we have them about a month or 2 months or whatever, they'd disappear, and I almost guarantee the Vietnamese were eating those things.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know if they'd eat a mongoose or not, but I wouldn't put anything past them. I really wouldn't.
Better than spam.
Well, there was a lot more meat on the dog than there was the mongoose. And they had that thing, I think it was like a Cudamonde, I believe they called it, but it was kind of like a possum. He'd curl around your neck, you know, and he'd stay up on the walls and stuff. And we had one of those for a while too. And then, you know, he got real healthy, and of course he disappeared too. So I told Dawishi, I said, no more pets, no more pets. Well, you knew where they were going.
Do you remember the ducks that we had? Somehow we ended up with a bunch of ducks, and it was a capo process, I think.
Oh, yes.
And I remember we had a guard watching, and Lieutenant C came by one time. He says, man, he says, you're going to need a guard, not guard. I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was hilarious.
I don't know if you guys remember, but you know, we always pitched horseshoes out there beside the team house. And, you know, we ate a little earlier than the Vietnamese did. And they would get down cooking the, what was it? Nook Mom, was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fermented fish sauce.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Look, Bob.
And they would eat that stuff.
Stinks to high heaven.
Oh my goodness. It would break up our horseshoe game every single time. Did you guys, when you were there earlier, did you have the horseshoe pit?
Yeah.
You did?
I think we did, but it was also the volleyball court.
Oh, we didn't have volleyball.
There was a volleyball court at some place between us and the Vietnamese. But another thing came to mind was it Mac V that had like 5 or 6 guys in camp for a long time?
Oh, yeah. Team 17.
They were there for probably, I don't know, like 5 months or so before I left. But I don't even know what their mission was, to tell you the truth. I mean, I don't know how many camps had people like that in with them, but
There were a couple.
If you look up Mac 17, I mean, they in Quai Nai province, they had several teams out, but we were one of the few special forces teams that had a Mac V contingent. But you know, I remember them coming to town, or you know, coming into Bateau, and one of the sergeants asked me if they could drive a truck across the river. I pointed out there was one place you could probably take a 4-deuce across, but that was about it. I mean, they rode everywhere, we walked everywhere.
Yeah.
you know, I halfway forgotten that they were in camp, except they had that one black major that was in there for a while, and somehow we ended up with like 2 or 3 cans of dehydrated pork chops. And he called it, he'd sent a message to his wife, and she sent all the stuff for barbecue sauce. And he mixed up the barbecue sauce and then grilled the pork chops, and it was really an outstanding meal for what we had. But I mean, I can still remember, like it was a black lieutenant by the name of Smith, and there
Yes.
was Paul Mary or something like that. But and a big sergeant that he had been out of camp for a while and he came back in, and he was a real hairy individual. And he sat down in that barber's chair and went to sleep. And they had shaved about halfway down on his back. And then when his hair started to grow back in, you sit there and squirm and cuss that barber. But I mean, it was a great camp. It really was. But I had forgotten about the MACV until it just popped in. But,
Ralph, if you remember the names of the people on the MACV team, write them down and send it to me, because I've got a couple of other camps that had.
I'll do my best. I know Smitty was a black lieutenant, and there was a
Yes. Yeah.
I want to say it was Hopkins or Higgins. It was a sergeant, and the other one was he actually got a punji. He was out with us on a mission, not with me, but with somebody. And then with a punji stake, and they medevaced him, and he standing in line getting a Purple Heart. And he said, "I'm sitting there with a little prick on my leg, and I'm getting a Purple Heart, and these guys up and down the line beside me are missing limbs and things like this." He said, "I really felt bad about it, but that's just the way it was handed out, you know."
But Smith, Lieutenant Smith, always had that purple beret or that on, and he ran the Phoenix program. I mean, he was always talking about that. Now I just wonder what the hell is going on here.
I don't know. I don't think I can't come up with all the names, but it was for a while they had a major there, and a major, at least that one first lieutenant, that Smith, and then I can't think of, I might be able to think of the other sergeant who was there, but they had 3 or 4 people there all the time. Well, for a long time.
When I was there, we didn't have anybody like that. We had, the only guy was the guy that was over from the Marical Fire Base.
I know we had some contact with the fire base, but I don't think they were a real part of our team. I mean, I don't think they fired any missions for us that I remember, and I don't remember that much contact with them.
You know, it was the 3rd Brigade of the Marical Division that was on that fire base, and they were good. About the only time I ever talked with them was when they put the guy over to and I think he was there when you were there, wasn't he, Dan Burks?
Yeah, there were 2 of them. One was the one that followed the initial one, and I've forgotten both their names.
I have too.
They were good. They were good guys, and
yes.
They communicated regularly with their fire base, and they were moving intel back and forth. That was, I think, the primary purpose of that.
It was San Juan Hill, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
fire base at San Juan Hill.
They had a fire battery up there.
That's right.
And they fired IL for us all the time, even though we were out at the end of their fan.
And the other fire base was up at Minlong, where they had 175 and 8-inch that we would call in on our northern.
Where was a fire base that supposedly supported us? Was that by Nui Kamon, north of that?
Yes, yeah, at Minlong at 108.
That was Minlong.
Okay, but I know someplace up there was another group that kind of overlapped with our northern boundaries.
Yeah, that was Minlong.
Now this got on here.
Yeah, as Alan said, they had two 8 inches and 2 175s, and they both had the range to get down to it.
Yeah, you did.
Hey, Garrett, this is like they're speaking Chinese. We didn't have any fire bases that would support us, right?
No.
Holy Christ. We're 175s, but my God.
We just didn't qualify, I guess.
I guess not. We had our own fire base and it was one thing.
And that's all we needed.
Damn, you guys were living high up there.
That's right.
Oh, there were a couple of occasions they were extremely helpful. Sheets and I got caught up in the Suloi Valley under a mortar attack, and the only way we could break it up was by bringing in the 8-inch guns from them.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got a spooky. Stayed
Well,
up
we-
there until dawn.
We had an Air Force Major, Albright, that flew the FAC.
Yeah.
Yes.
He'd come in and pick somebody up sometimes and take you up and kind of scout
Yep.
the area. looking for
Yeah, they'll do that.
Like that.
Yeah.
What I was
Hey, you
showing,
know, before 7 PM comes here, guys, we ought to think about maybe sometime down the line, having another one of these things.
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah,
that's a
sounds
good
good.
idea.
Is there any consensus on how long we should wait before we do that?
At our age, you better not wait too damn long.
Once a month, first Friday of the month.
Yeah.
We'll all be jelly.
well, you better call the other people and tell them what they missed so you get them to the meeting.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to see some more people. There were a couple of events that happened during the time that I was there that, one of which I never was clear on because I was out on operation when it went down. And I come back and it was a fait accompli and people were sort of a little bit on the QT about it. It had to do with about 30 of the camp's contingent being rounded up and lifted out because they were determined to be, well, I guess VC or VC sympathizers. Do you remember that, Garrett?
No, I don't.
Yeah, that clearly happened, and I want somebody to fill in some holes for me.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
that-
Peacock could.
Yeah, well, I was disappointed that he didn't attend today for that reason, and also you know, I could have brought it up, but because we didn't have enough people who were there to talk about the mutiny that occurred one time in the camp.
Oh,
I don't
that
know.
sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I think I was there for that, wasn't I?
Well, I would imagine it was
Yeah.
in late-ish August, I think, maybe early September at the
Yeah,
latest.
67, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the
Oh,
CIDG were pitching grenades into the LLBD bunker.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
I think
these
firing
were-
rifles in there too.
Oh, hell yeah, they were hosing down the
Yeah.
in the
That-
windows and
What
Damn.
year are you talking?
67.
Okay, I don't think we were there, Alan. I think that happened.
Oh, I know. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But
No, I want to tell you that was a tight 2 or 3 hours. You know, it occurred around I don't know. I think 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and things didn't quite settle down until like around supper time. And
Yeah.
both colonels came flying in by helicopter at about 11 o'clock at night. Colonel Shungle and his counterpart, Colonel Kwai, I think was his name.
Huh.
And oh yeah, they came. They had to calm things down, and one of the LDDB was summarily executed.
Really?
Yeah, oh
Thank
yeah.
goodness. Yeah.
So it was a interesting time.
Yeah, I
So,
guess. Yeah.
I'd like to get some more people's perspective on it, and
I don't recall what the beef was that the mountain yards were they treated unfairly by the LLDB?
I am sure that there was, and that's why maybe other people would have other perspectives on it. But I'm pretty sure that there was some brewing tensions. Okay.
Yeah,
But
with some animosity for sure.
Yeah, but the spark that set the thing off. I mean, it's the age-old story, right? It involved a woman. One of the members of the LLDB, one of the very junior officers, was
frequenting.
Oh, Walt's frozen up here.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what I was.
and,
Here he goes.
so something went down that afternoon that involved a shot or two that rang out in the camp. And then everybody ran for their guns and they came out, and it was something. And
Yeah.
so we want to talk more about that when we have more people who were there at the time.
Do you remember who the captain was?
You mean the LLDB?
No, our captain.
Oh, absolutely. Jim Kotrick.
Kotrick, yeah.
KOTRC.
Yeah, he died later in another unit.
He did?
He was awarded a posthumous Distinguished Service Cross with the 25th Infantry Division
Oh, really?
down in 3 Corps.
Huh. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
He rotated back from our camp to the C team. He stayed there for a few months, anywhere from, I think, like 2 to 4 months, and then rotated back to Fort Benning, where he was slotted to attend the career course in sometime starting in the summer or fall of '68. After which he went back and he was KIA.
Oh, jeez. I'm sorry to hear that. Because
Yeah.
he's the one that put Peacock and me in for the Soldier's Medal.
Aha.
Yeah. Then we felt bad because we didn't give him we didn't put in anything for him.
Yeah.
We kind of screwed up.
Well, anyway,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Those were a couple of events that, I think if we could just get a few more guys, Doug and Frank Carcio and I'd have to look at the Nathan Blaylock and that I know are still around. If we could get them to attend as well.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
When the video comes out, I'm finished with the video, I'll be sending a link to everybody who is an attendee, who is on the list to be an attendee, and they'll see what they missed.
Steve, we appreciate everything you've done too. We sincerely
Absolutely,
do. Yeah, we
Steve.
really do.
Yeah.
You provide a tremendous amount of information, and this event today was really great.
Yeah.
I've been
We could go on.
eliminated out of the COVID-19 for the last 2 years. I got a lot of work done because I've been locked up here.
Right.
And frankly, the reason why you're all here is you've had some exposure to Zoom as a result of COVID-19. So it seemed like a good fit to do this, use it on Zoom. I'm disappointed today on both camps today that the turnout was much lower than I anticipated. I hope tomorrow the turnouts will be a lot higher.
We got to yell at Peacock for not coming on.
Got to yell at them all. Anybody who missed this thing just really missed a great opportunity. I thought you guys did a great job of getting your own history out there. And we had a couple of very interesting guests along here who had things to add all along. So
Sure, you indicated earlier that there were email addresses and phone numbers, and where do we find those?
On the letter that you got to announce this meeting.
Okay.
The address is on that. Everybody received in the open the full email address for all the people who I found.
Okay.
There may be 1 or 2 people who I found after I sent you the letter, but in the totality of things, it's small. If you want somebody specific, and you look on the website and you see that he's not deceased, call me up and I'll tell you what I know about him, and you can.
Okay. Well, it appears the ones I was most interested in, like Jerry Martin and Campana, and some of the other guys that I really am surprised they didn't make Jim Crockett, and I'm really surprised.
He was up there for a minute and then he disappeared.
Well, it looks like you had contact with them, but they're not there, and I just was actually kind of surprised.
All of those email addresses are right there on the message you received. So if you send them a letter, say, what the fuck happened to you?
Lieutenant Cooper, Captain Martin called me a couple of years ago, and he was trying to get a hold of Dean Sheets, but he's out in California. The last I heard of him, and
well, he's another one. He was just a key player in the whole game. He was very quiet, but I just see him sitting there smoking that cigarette and burning his fingers, taking code, and it's like, I mean, he was there forever. It seemed like.
well, he came back, got out, and then got back in the guard unit and got back over there. And I don't know, he bounced around for a while. And the C-team surgeon, Captain Kangas, is running a hospital up in Minnesota somewhere. And Captain Martin's mother went to see him as a doctor back here in the States.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of the other lieutenant now.
Well, I was hoping Lieutenant Donaldson in Thieves.
Thieves.
Yeah,
Stayed,
from Minnesota.
he got recalled back in and stayed till he was a full colonel, and then he got out, and he was somewhere up, I think, in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I have contacts. Ones who are not there on the list. You know, most of them are found on the website. It tells you if they're deceased.
Yeah.
But no.
You're talking about Davis?
Yes.
And what happened to him?
Well, yeah. Yes. What happened? Yeah. Yeah.
Tom, were you talking about Thieves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got called back on active duty after he got out and stayed till he made lieutenant or full colonel.
Really?
And then he retired. Huh?
Huh?
He retired somewhere up in Minnesota.
Yeah.
That was according to Captain Martin, what he was telling me.
Okay.
I lived in St. Paul for a couple of years, and I thought he went back into the family business after Vietnam.
He did.
I think. I don't know.
VIS.
He did, but then he got recalled on active duty.
Okay.
Who are you talking about? What's the spelling?
Thieves, and I don't know the spelling. THIEV something.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
THIEWE.
You got him down as the PSYOPs officer also, and he was in both capacities.
All
He was
three.
there in 67, 68, 69, that time frame.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think it's yes.
And if you remember Lieutenant Donaldson from maybe Richmond, Virginia?
I don't remember him.
Okay.
He died in
Lee
LaPorte,
Donaldson. Lee and I went through CS together.
LaPorte, Minnesota. He died in 2010. Retires a full bird.
Okay.
But he has passed away, right?
Yes.
Who's that?
Thieves.
THIEWES, John.
He's passed away?
Yeah. According to what Sherman has.
Yeah.
Okay. And you all were talking about arresting a bunch of them. Capanen and I went over and arrested a bunch of the RFPF and had them surrounded on the airport. And I believe it was Marines that came in to get them, like a sergeant, a lieutenant or something. And they let a couple of them get loose. Now, how many they kept out of that bunch, I don't remember. But the Mountain Yard District Chief wanted to get rid of them.
I remember one time that we had a prisoner escape and headed towards the north and a little bit to the west. And that entire side of the camp fired at this young man till he got to the river. And when they got to the river, they stopped and it ran a Jeep out and picked this guy up. And he was, I just happened to see pictures. I was in someplace the other day, and I got 3 pictures of Kagawa working on him in the dispensary. And when that entire side of the camp shouted him all the way from Camp Wire to the river, they picked him up in a Jeep and brought him back. He'd been hit 3 times. Once, just once above the collarbone, once through the side, and once through his thigh. And he was still running, and they were barely bleeding. I couldn't believe it. So
Yeah, he was flying.
Someone talked about our kill ratio. It sucked. I tell you. But nobody could hit that young man running across the field. It must have been 150 yards across that to the river on that side of the camp.
It was.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many of the people they kept. I don't know. Me and Kip Hannon turned them over, I think, to the Marines. I don't remember who it was.
There's no doubt we probably had a lot of problems with infiltration and things like that. And you never know. And honestly, I never thought, you talked about earlier that someone might have been killed from Yabuk by their own team. I never once thought about being harmed by my own team in the field. And maybe it's just being stupid on my part, but it just never entered my mind.
No,
No,
me neither.
neither.
But Jerry, our interpreter, was killed by friendly fire, and I remember him being out with Kagawa that night.
He was killed by friendly fire?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, he was probably the most laid back of the 3 or 4 interpreters. I mean, you would have thought if anyone was going to have a problem with somebody inside the wire, I mean, I could see Hugh, Winston kind of had a mouth, and Mr. Bob. I mean, he was kind of the patriarch of the interpreters. And I know I heard that Jerry had been killed at the time. It's like I just assumed he was killed, but by not friendly fire.
But he was shot. I saw the wound. They brought him in and dressed him out, and I saw the wound down at the thigh, and it tumbled up through the body. And if there was anybody on the team I would want with me if I were hit, it would be Kagawa. And he just bled out.
Okay. Yeah, Kagawa was a special medic, and I remember Jerry had that lump, kind of like a tumor on top of his head.
Yeah.
And I remember the team house one day, the Kagawa convinced him to let him operate on it, and he split it open. He expected to find just a sack and pull it out and pop it out. And he cut and cut and cut and pulled. And finally, Jerry said, no more. But the guy, he had his stuff about him. He was good.
Yeah.
We had a Vietnamese that was in the tree, and I don't remember the situation because we didn't have that many trees in the area. But this young kid fell out of a tree, and they came and got Kagawa, and Kagawa went out there, and he literally breathed life back into this kid. And it was kind of touch and go. And he was trying to call in a medevac to get this kid out of there, and it wasn't working out for him. So he had the kid pretty well breathing again, and he turned around and went back here like 50 yards away to do something, and came back, and the parents had taken this kid home, and he had stopped breathing. The kid, Kagawa had him. He was touch and go, but the parents came and got him and took him home, and Kagawa was just broken up because he thought he had saved the kid, and the parents just didn't see that, and they just took him home. And it lost him, but he was good.
Doug Peacock talked about ambushes on patrol. He said that every so often he was sent on patrol where everybody went on patrol at one point or another, and that he said basically inevitably he said at some point you get ambushed. Does that rhyme with your experience?
Well, fortunately, I was never ambushed, so thankfully.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
Yeah, we got ambushed.
But
With
you do remember that then?
yeah, that combined operation with the 101st.
Now, did the 101st have, or the 1st Cav, did they have fire bases up on the hills?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
They had, they had one, do you remember, Doug, when I say Doug, Garrett, when a battalion of the 3rd Brigade of the Cav came into camp or came to the airfield and set up?
No,
Were
I
you
do
here?
not.
Well, that occurred again, late-ish August, very early September. And I think all these things, personally, I've always thought that these things were all interconnected because there was a bunch of strange stuff happening during August and into early September that year. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
I sent an email to a guy, Einat, I think, Charlie Einat.
Yeah.
A few days ago, and I thought he told a story, and I sent an email saying, gee, that sounds like a very similar circumstances that happened like later on or earlier. I forget which way he is of me. And I thought I sent it reply all. So you all, I think, would have a copy of it. But anyway, the Cav did come in, and this battalion-sized unit, and they set up, and all the while they were setting up around our camp or out on the airfield, sort of, or near it, unbeknownst to us, they were setting up a headquarters and a small fire base up on one of the southwest hills. And they ran operations there for about a week or a week and a half.
Huh.
And then they picked up and left. And my understanding was that they destroyed the TOC that they built up on the hill, pulled the guns away, and that was it.
Huh.
So.
I don't recall any kind of.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Oh, I got it happened.
Been a lot of mileage.
Yeah. So, but that's why I was so struck by somebody talking about, fire bases for Christ's sake, at Minlong that could almost reach the Bateau. I mean, God, wouldn't that have been nice?
That would have been nice.
But at least we had them for a little while there when the Cav came. And I assume that any similar operation by the divisional, the division units would have had similar SOPs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have.
Well, I just want to reiterate, how what a privilege it is for me to have been able to be a part of this. Thank you very much for indulging me. For me, it's almost like meeting celebrities because I've looked at the list that Steve, had online of everybody who, had been at Bateau, and I was just looking. I think I've seen every name on there, and it's very interesting for me to to be able to to put faces with names.
Well, when you come visit your dad,
Mhm.
keep in mind, any of you, we're only about 3 miles from the Blue Ridge Parkway. Shoot me an email, call me, and we'll go get lunch or something and you got a place to stay.
Well, you may regret saying that because
Oh, no.
We might just take you up on it.
because I'm due for a visit home, you know,
Yeah.
and so I've got to head back there pretty soon. You know? So you may just hear from me.
That sounds good.
All right.
And Steve, thanks so much.
On the artillery question, there was some publication I had here the other day that was talking about, a camp that was besieged in 3 Corps. And then they went on to say, but the real interest should be in what's going on in Hatan, because and this is 1974, because from Hatan, with their larger artillery pieces, the NVA could hit Da Nang. Okay?
Huh?
So if they can hit Da Nang from Hatan,
Yeah.
you know, depending on what you had, you can go a long way in I Corps, from one camp to another camp, or one fire base to another fire base. Right.
Yeah.
On another topic, in terms of finding people, like trying to find what happened to Sheets. If anybody is truly interested in locating people, the database that I have of SF people is so large that I should be able to find somebody in that town that can walk over to their house and say, hey, he's still alive. In fact, I was doing my OCS class, and I had one person who was in this little town in New Hampshire, and I just couldn't get him anywhere. I never heard of the town of New Hampshire, but I looked at my database, and sure enough, there was somebody else from the same town in SF. I said, do you know where this street is? He said, oh yeah. I said, can you go over there and ask somebody what happened to this guy? He said, sure. What's the number? What's the name? I give him the number, I give him the name. He says, he's having dementia problems, and his wife is taking care of him. Not only could he go to the address, he knew who it was. That's how.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go there. So we've got a network here that can really do a lot of finding people if there's somebody there who wants to be persistent enough to follow through. Because I can't spend that much time on individuals. Okay? Especially if I'm trying to get as many people as possible together for a meeting in 1 more week or 2 more weeks. So, I've enjoyed having you all here. I hope you guys will follow up. I hope you guys will chastise the others. Whoever was talking about Crockett, I just noticed he sent me an email and said, did you cancel the meeting? I said, no, meeting just is ending now, but I saw your name come up on the screen. Where the hell were you? So
it did flash through there about the same time Tom came on.
yeah, well, he was there, but he thought he got somebody telling him that it was canceled. It wasn't. Maybe he was watching the old people go away. Anyway,
I saw all these old people and not realize he's probably the wrong one.
Old and age, the earlier group leaving at the time that he was coming in.
Yeah.
And we're all old people here. I recognize that, except for Duke.
Oh, I know, I'm getting up there. Mr. Johnson, are you, it looks like you're in sort of a modernist house there.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting looking. And I heard you say that you had built the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so are you an architect?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, you could build a kitchen without being an architect, you know.
Yeah.
But the way that it's all done, I mean, I
Yeah.
you know, that was me adding 1 and 1.
Yeah.
Well, it looks wonderful.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
congratulations.
Yeah.
All right.
Lieutenant Cooper, if I had to do it over again, I would have done a better job at the concrete.
I thought it looked pretty good, actually.
Oh, no.
Look back.
Wait,
50 years later, it's still standing.
well,
It's not
No,
up to
that's one
Bateau standards.
I
I
have
would have
to,
done it cheaper.
I'm
Pretty
gonna
high
stop
level.
the recording, but you guys can stay on the screen for
Yeah,
as long as
yeah,
you want to keep on
yeah.
going.